This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream, the stream I do on Sundays, because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Sunday morning. It's kind of gray and overcast and cool right now. It's probably not going to last, but I'll take it for what it is. I expect humidity soon and discomfort. But until then, you get to listen to me, which I'm sure is a comfort. I hope, in some way, shape, or form. But before I get into me, that sounds kind of weird. Who's joining me on this beautiful Sunday morning? Mike R. Good morning to you. Old Guy Gamer. Good morning to you. Keeverdam, good morning. And thank you, Keeverdam, as always, for providing the links to our friends AJ, Ron Harushan, Natalie, and Angela Arriaga. Guys, please take a look at those links to the GoFundMe pages and fundraiser pages otherwise. Please donate if you're able. If you're not, that's fine. But if you can, share those out on social media. That would be appreciated. So thank you again, Keeverdam, for providing those. And thank you guys for your consideration in donating. Mike Savage. Good morning. Noah Asensio. Good morning. Who else is here? Fun Time Bats. Good morning. Random American. Good morning. Why the heck do live stream chats take so long to load? Is it just me or does that happen to anyone else? I don't know. That's my answer. So that's the best I can do. Mike R. Good morning. Derek LaRue. Thank you as always, Derek. That's very generous of you. Appreciate it very much for your generosity. Hope you're having a good day. And hope you enjoyed the show. Who else is here? Resolute Germ. Good morning. Kiro Soldier. Good morning. Josh Hammond. Good morning. Robert Pincus. Good morning to you. Somnamnul Nation. Good morning. Plague Trucker Zach. Good morning. Blue-Eyed Scream. Morning. I did not get a notification. I finally just paid attention. I don't know. Make sure your bells are hit on your YouTube things or whatever, and follow me on the X. I try to put out a reminder in the mornings and otherwise, but yeah, I have no control over the YouTubes. I wish I did. That'd be cool. Spoonie the Rebel. Good morning. Who else is here? Urcule de Stefano. Good morning to you and to anybody else I missed. I don't think I did, but anybody I missed, anybody lurking, anybody in the future, good morning. Boy, oh boy, I have had a morning today. Let me tell you about my morning before I get into the news. You know how sometimes when you're just waking up, and you're lying there and your mind kind of wanders to different places and things and different ideas and thoughts. And it's not really ordered in any particular way. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But then finally, like, okay, I got to get up. I got to get out of bed. I get up, start stretching. And then my mind starts to clarify and I focus on what I have to do for the day and so on. Well, that didn't happen to me today. I got up. I started doing my morning routine and everything, getting breakfast ready, brushing my teeth, everything else. And my mind would not stop wandering to different things. Different little things. And I kept thinking that there was a point to why I was thinking about this thing or trying to remember this anecdote or whatever else, but it just wouldn't stop. And it went on like that for like 15 or 20 minutes. And there's part of me that was thinking, there's a reason I'm thinking about this memory or I'm trying to make this connection, but it just isn't working. It's like the synapses are firing, but the connections are not being made. And this went on for like half an hour. And I'm most of the time this morning, I was just standing still, looking off into space, trying to figure out why am I thinking about this thing again? Or what exactly is this memory I'm having now? And I thought, am I finally succumbing to Alzheimer's or something? Is this what it is? Is this what happens when you start to lose your mind? You just start going off on different paths of things that have nowhere to go. And then you stop yourself and go, why the hell was I thinking about that? And this went on. Again, this went on for the better part of half an hour, where I was just kind of moving through my day. But at the same time, I kept having these little wisps of memory come here and there. And I couldn't quite understand what the hell was going on. I think I've cleared up by now. I think I might have been in some sort of like half awake, half asleep state. Maybe it was a lack of sleep or something. I don't know. It's very disquieting, very disconcerting. And I kept thinking, for some reason, because today's just been a jumble of thoughts, about an old James Bond book. Okay, and I promise you this has nothing to do with anything. If you're listening to this in the future, skip ahead 5 minutes or something. This will probably mean nothing to anybody, but it is an interesting anecdote, I suppose, either way. When I was like 7, I was a James Bond freakazoid. TBS would play James Bond movies all the time. I was into spies and James Bond and gadgets and all that kind of stuff. I was just a nut for it. And one day we went to the store, the big department store nearby, and they had a book on tape section. This is back in the olden days. And there was a book on tape there called No Deals, Mr. Bond. It was a 2-tape audiobook written by someone named John Gardner. John Gardner had taken up the mantle of writing James Bond books back in the 80s or whatever. And it was the worst James Bond title ever. No Deals, Mr. Bond. You don't put Mr. Bond in the title of a James Bond adventure. It's got to be something catchy and weird, like A View to a Kill or Octopussy or something like that. But anyway, No Deals, Mr. Bond. But I was a James Bond freak, so I had to have it. And it was like $7.99 or something. And I had just enough money in my allowance to pay for this thing. And I listened to that thing, I can't tell you how many times. And I lost it for a time. I was able to find a copy again on eBay long, long ago. And I made sure to finally digitize it into my collection. But there's one part in that book that has always stuck with me. It has always stuck with me for some reason. James Bond has been captured. He's been captured by the bad guys. And he's strapped down to a table, and they're putting truth serum into him, sodium pentothal. And James Bond is an experienced operative, right? And he doesn't want to give the enemy any information whatsoever. So as they're putting the drug into him and as they're letting it take effect, in his mind, he's going to himself, okay, I'm going to fill my mind with multiplication tables and gibberish and nonsense. So when they start questioning me, everything I say is just going to be gobbledygook and they can't get anything useful out of me. And I always thought that was a really cool thing. It also told me something as a young kid about memory and cognition and how we assess the reality around us. And I kept thinking about that this morning as I'm having all these crazy thoughts going through my head, all these little anecdotes and bits and pieces of information that I was trying to make a connection to, but I just couldn't do it. It's like my mind was being filled with gibberish. It wasn't nonsense gibberish because they were real thoughts. They were real memories. They were real little pieces of information about different things, but they just had no reason to be there at the same time within the span of a half an hour or whatever it was. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is I have had quite the eclectic morning. So consequently, I thought I'd carry that over into the show and have a few eclectic topics. Now, of course, I came up with this show's format last night before all this happened. So it's just a happy, disturbing coincidence that I might be having Alzheimer's onset. I don't know. It's been a goofy morning and I've only been up for 2 hours. Anyway, everyone, let's get on with the show, such as it is, with our first story, which is kind of sad in several ways, not only for the events therein, but also because of the media's reporting on it. Now, I don't usually read stories ahead of time before a show, but I read this one last night, and I thought I'd share it with you because there's several things about it that both disturb and kind of anger me. So I thought I'd share it with you. This was Ferguson officer fighting for his life. Several arrested after protests marking 10 years since Michael Brown's killing. Not an officer defending himself from an attack, but Michael Brown's killing. We're 10 years out from this, and the mischaracterizations and obfuscations continue. But let's proceed into the story. This is from CNN. A Ferguson police officer is, quote unquote, fighting for his life, unquote, after being assaulted during protests on Friday night, following several days of events marking the 10-year anniversary of Michael Brown's killing by an officer in the department. Protesters were allowed to block multiple streets near the Ferguson Police Department. Why? And the demonstrations remained peaceful for most of the evening until some people began, quote unquote, violently shaking the fence at the police station, Chief Troy Doyle said at a Saturday news conference. Quote, "We did not react. We stayed here. Let them shake the fence," unquote, the chief said. Quote, "That happened several times throughout the night up until the point that they broke the bottom portions of our fence. They destroyed property on our police department's parking lot," unquote. Well, yes, if you allow them to keep shaking a giant metal cage long enough, something's going to break. But I guess that was That was okay. At that point, Doyle deployed his arrest team to make arrests for destruction of property. Okay, so you waited until the worst moment, even though they went from peaceful. I don't know. Shaking a metal fence as a mob feels to me not so much a peaceful protest at that point, but whatever. The team was assaulted by several protesters, and one of the officers, identified by police as Travis Brown. I'm assuming no relation to Michael Brown, but who knows? It is an interesting coincidence. Suffered a severe brain injury, Doyle said. Quote, he is in an area hospital right now fighting for his life, said the chief, who was visibly emotional during the news conference. As the officer was attempting to arrest someone who had broken and stolen a large portion of the station's fence outside, the suspect charged at him, quote unquote, violently with his shoulder, which knocked the officer down and caused him to suffer a head injury, Doyle said. 2 other officers were injured Friday night, including one who suffered an ankle injury and another who had abrasions, Doyle said. Elijah Gant, 28, faces 5 charges in Officer Travis Brown's assault, including resisting arrest, first-degree property damage, and 2 charges of fourth-degree assault, according to the St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. Gant is being held on a $500,000 cash-only bond and must stay 1,500 feet away from the Ferguson Police Department, according to the prosecutor's office. CNN has been unable to determine if Gant has obtained legal representation. St. Louis County Prosecutor Wesley Bell said at the news conference, several other protesters are in custody and prosecutors are working on filing additional charges against them. Friday marked 10 years to the day since Michael Brown, 18, was shot and killed by a Ferguson police officer on August 9, 2014, while walking on the street with his friend. Officers left his body lying in the street under the hot sun for 4.5 hours, long enough for local children and his family to see him lying there. Let's stop for a second, shall we? What's missing from that story? Let's read that again. Friday marked 10 years to the day since Michael Brown, 18, was shot and killed by a Ferguson police officer on August 9, 2014, while walking on the street with his friend. Yes, that's all he was doing, Michael Brown was doing. That's all he did. He was just walking down the street. We're 10 years out from this event, and that is CNN's summary of the events. He's just innocent, just walking down the street, not just minding his own business. The officer, Darren Wilson, was cleared of federal civil rights violations and criminal wrongdoing. Why, CNN? Why? I mean, the guy was just walking down the street with his friend. He wasn't doing anything. He was minding his own business, according to your recitation here. Oh, but no, 10 years out, let's not provide any actual context or facts about the situation. Officer Travis Brown joined the department in January after working with the St. Louis County Police Department, the chief said. He said the officer joined the force, quote, because he was inspired to do the right thing. He wanted to be part of the change, unquote. Quote, we believe people have the right to peacefully protest, but when that line is crossed and people are harmed, property is damaged, people have to be held accountable, unquote, said Bell. Well, then why didn't you start breaking things up when they started violently shaking the fence? That stops being a peaceful protest at that point. No, you waited until the fence broke until starting to do something. Okay. The Ferguson Police Department no longer looks as it did in 2014. Back then, the department had around 60 officers and fewer than 5 were African American, Doyle told CNN. Oh? Doyle said Brown's killing and the ensuing protests have left a lasting impact on the department and their approach to policing. Obviously so, where you let a violent mob get to the point of breaking down a metal fence before you act to defend yourselves or property. But okay. Quote, I had to look his mother in the eye and tell her what happened to her son. I'm never going to do that again. I promise you that I'm never going to do that again, unquote, Doyle said, adding his police department has been a, quote, punching bag for this community since 2014. And look how well that's gone with your new policies. What? Oh, and Officer Travis Brown is somehow a beneficiary of this new policy? Doyle said, quote, maybe 4 Ferguson police officers from 2014 are still employed at the agency. Quote, this is a brand new police department. I don't know why the officers here who weren't even here in 2014 have to continue to suffer through this. It doesn't make any sense, unquote, Doyle said. It makes perfect sense when you back down to the mob. When you capitulate to the mob, that's what happens. And now an officer has severe brain injuries and may or may not recover. Michael Brown's family held week-long tribute in his honor, in Michael Brown's honor. Remember, guys, are we getting any context to what happened here? The protests on Friday followed the Brown family's week-long tribute to the young man Mike Brown was and could have been. On Friday, Michael Brown Sr. and his wife Cal Brown walked the 4.5 miles from the high school where their son graduated just days before he was killed through the streets of Ferguson to the place they called Ground Zero, the rugged patch of asphalt where the teenager laid, which remains untouched despite the years. Mike Brown's killing and the hundreds of days of sustained protest that followed helped strengthen the Black Lives Matter movement, oh thank goodness, and brought the issue of police use of force against unarmed Black Americans to the forefront of U.S. policy and politics like never before. Yeah, you know, if someone has no weapons in their hands, they're obviously not a threat to anyone, everyone. At all. If you have no weapons, I mean, if I'm unarmed, I can't possibly be a threat to someone. I couldn't possibly assault someone. I couldn't possibly try to steal the gun from a police officer if I'm unarmed. But a decade later, the nation's progress towards preventing such a killing has remained frustratingly so. Preventing such a killing? Who assaulted who? There was a strong arm robbery. A description went out. The police officer stopped this guy. The guy tried to grab the officer's gun. He was shot. Preventing such a killing? The nation's progress. Sorry, who was at fault here? The department remains under a 2016 federal consent decree put in place after the Department of Justice issued a scathing report that found the city's officers and court system had engaged in a, quote, pattern and practice, unquote, of discrimination against African Americans, targeting them disproportionately for traffic stops, use of force, and jail sentences. Yeah, and that wasn't all brought about because nobody wanted to admit that someone committed a crime who happened to be Black that day, stopped by a white officer. Brown Sr. acknowledged the Ferguson Police Department has made progress over the years, but he compared the changes to a rebrand, CNN reported. Quote, they've tried to do different things, body cams, don't stop and frisk no more, unquote, he said during the social media interview earlier this week. Quote, it's just a lot of cancer in the system that they can't change, it's just a lot of cancer in the system that they can't just change faces right now. They have to change the whole system, unquote. Doyle said his goal as chief is to engage with Ferguson's community so that his department is seen as a, quote, legitimate, effective, professional law enforcement agency, CNN previously reported. Well, as far as legitimacy is concerned, how about telling the story as it happened instead of glossing over the fact that Michael Brown assaulted a police officer and attempted to take his gun. And this is after robbing a store. I honestly I'm a little shocked. I was a little shocked yesterday when I read this because I realized this is CNN. This is CNN. But 10 years on, this is how they categorize the events of that day. This is how they gloss over exactly what happened and who was at fault that day. They gloss over what the investigation found about the event and the witnesses on the scene said about the event. Even Michael Brown's friend said about the event. This ticked me off because you want to talk about, ministry of truth, disinformation. CNN could give a masterclass in that right now. But anyway, that's the first story. What do you guys love to say? Darren Root, scribe out, let's be serious here. Would media give a damn if he was white? Probably not. At that time and since then, probably no. Also, Ebony Williams is here. Ebony Williams, dude was an actual criminal. I'm surprised we're talking about this again. Well, only because a police officer in the line of duty and put on the line with a department that allowed a mob to start trying to shake down a barrier now has perhaps irreversible brain damage from an assault, which is just it's so pointless. None of this had to happen. None of this had to happen. But the Ferguson Police Department is apparently so scared of being called racist that they will allow the mob all the latitude they need to cause more death and destruction, so long as they're not called racist. This reminds me of what's been happening for years in Britain, and is happening again. Look up Rotherham. Look up the Rotherham rape gangs story from the mid 2010s. If you want to see what happens when a police apparatus capitulates on the basis of not wanting to be called racist, so scared of being called names that they will allow utter tragedies and atrocities to occur rather than take action and be called names or be accused of wrongdoing. This isn't, I mean, unfortunately for Officer Brown and his family, they have to deal with the fallout of this kind of thinking now. But anyway, so that's story number one. Let me get a couple more of your comments here. Bishop, damn shame New York City got nuked on election day by Iran. The resulting nationwide blackout killed a few million, but don't worry, Kamala won. Oh, I see. I was like, wait a second. Is that a novel I read or something? Actually, I was just reading. I found a copy, a cheap copy at a used bookstore of Trinity's Child. It was made into a TV movie called By Dawn's Early Light. It had James Earl Jones in it and a whole bunch of other actors of the 80s in there. And it's a fiction book, but it tells of a hypothetical situation where there's a nuclear exchange between U.S. and Russia, and all the craziness that happens as a result of that. And I was just talking about like getting nuked by Iran. Like, man, the Cold War was a scary, scary time. Scary, scary time. And that book in particular, the TV movie, I think, is probably a better, more pared down telling of the story. The book gets a little scattered. But I really find that stuff fascinating sometimes. And yeah, but it's also very frightening if you think about some of the scenarios. But yeah, the political rhetoric in the next couple of months, especially with what's going on right now, is just, and we'll be talking about a couple of stories here in a minute regarding the election or the oncoming election. But yeah, this story just ticks me off. Just the way CNN decided to frame everything, leave things out, not provide context, seems to make it all. Yeah, I'm getting scattered. I'm going to move on to the next story. And speaking of the next story, let me see. Oh, I got to do this now. I got to stop this one, and then I got to present the next one. So let's talk about this. This just happened last night, and boy, oh boy, did I have a little bit of a Twitter exchange about this. That was bizarre, but I'll get to the Twitter exchange momentarily. Harris pledges to work to end taxes on tips for service industry employees, echoing Trump vow. Now, as far as I can tell, since Kamala Harris has become the anointed, not elected representative of the Democratic Party, remember, Kamala Harris did not go through a primary process. She hasn't received a single vote yet, either now or ahead of the convention, but she's already been anointed the Democratic candidate, which is just wunderbar. Anyway, but as far as I can tell, this is the first solid policy proposal that Kamala Harris has made. Because if I'm not mistaken, and someone please correct me, as of this broadcast, Kamala Harris's presidential campaign website still does not contain any policy points. It just has donation links and some, glossy sort of greeting card rhetoric on it. So this is her first big policy declaration. And it's a clone of something Trump said weeks ago. Vice President Kamala Harris promised Saturday to work to eliminate taxes on tips paid to restaurant and other service industry employees, echoing a pledge that her opponent, Republican Donald Trump, has made and marking a rare instance of political overlap from both sides. It's bizarre that the first premier thing she comes out with is something Trump has already declared. Harris made the announcement at a rally on the campus of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where the economy relies heavily on the hotel, restaurant, and entertainment industries. Trump vowed essentially the same thing at his own rally in the city in June, though neither he nor Harris are likely to be able to fully do that without actions from Congress. Well, let's be honest, a lot of the things that presidential candidates promise, they can't actually do by presidential fiat, at least not yet, because most of these things require congressional consent. But anyway, quote, "It is my promise to everyone here that when I am president, we will continue our fight for working families of America," unquote, Harris said, quote, "including to raise the minimum wage and eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers," unquote. Trump responded on his social media site a short time later, posting that Harris, quote, "just copied my no taxes on tips policy," unquote. "The difference is she won't do it. She just wants it for political purposes," the former president wrote. "This was a Trump idea. She has no ideas. She can only steal from me," unquote. Harris's campaign said afterward that as president, she would work with Congress to draft a proposal that includes an income limit and other provisions to keep hedge fund managers and lawyers from structuring their compensation to try to take advantage of the policy. She would also push for the proposal alongside one to increase the federal minimum wage. Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, came to Nevada as the final stop of a 5 battleground state blitz in which their party has shown new energy after President Joe Biden exited the race and endorsed Harris. Under duress, but we won't talk about that too much. On Sunday, the vice president is holding a San Francisco fundraiser that has already raised more than $12 million, her campaign said, with House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi among those set to speak, possibly incoherently. There were 12,000 plus people inside the campus basketball arena on Saturday. Oh, how many of them were AI generated? That's a whole other story. And before the event started, local law enforcement halted entry to the event because people were becoming ill while waiting outside in 109-degree heat to go through security. About 4,000 people were in line when the entrances were closed. Walz referenced that during his speech, but turned it into an applause line by telling Nevada, quote, "Don't worry, we're going to be back a lot," unquote. If ever I've heard an applause line, I guess that's one. As part of the trip, Harris is hoping to build greater support among Latino voters. In 2020, Biden narrowly defeated Trump by 2.4 percentage points in Nevada. Strange that, yeah. The 60,000-strong Culinary Workers Union announced its endorsement of Harris. About 54% of the union's members are Latino, 55% women, and 60% immigrants. Legal? I have to ask. The union also issued a statement supporting Harris's call for a higher minimum wage and to, quote, "ensure that there are no taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers," unquote. Harris made her promise on eliminating tip taxation as part of a broader appeal to strengthen the nation's middle class, seizing on a theme that was a centerpiece of Biden's now-defunct re-election bid. Quote, "We believe in a future where we lower the cost of living for America's families so that they have a chance not just to get by, but to get ahead," she said. AP VoteCast found in 2020 that 14% of Nevada voters were Hispanic, with Biden winning 54% of their votes. His margin with Hispanic voters was slightly better nationwide, a sign that Democrats cannot take this block of voters for granted. Well, they shouldn't take that block of voters for granted. Oftentimes, they do. Quote, "There's an incredible energy here among the college students and community members who are coming together to support and listen to our next president, Kamala Harris," unquote, said Aymar Cespedes Alvarado, 21. Studying political science at UNLV, Cespedes Alvarado is a first-generation American citizen who spent his childhood in Costa Rica before making the difficult decision at 16 to return alone to the U.S. for better opportunities. Okay. The vice president also promised to tackle immigration, leaning heavily into the issue as she did the previous night during a rally in Arizona. Quote, "We know that our immigration system is broken." Yeah, who broke it? Yeah, the system isn't broken, it's overwhelmed. And you know why it's overwhelmed? You want to think about that for a second? We know it's broken. We know what it takes to fix it, Harris said in Las Vegas. You've had nigh on 4 years, Kamala. And how's that been going? Oh, border czar Kamala Harris. If you know what it takes to fix it, why hasn't it been fixed? I may have done a few videos on the immigration situation over time. I may have a little bit. He also endorsed an, quote, earned pathway to citizenship, unquote, for some people in the country illegally, and slammed Trump, who she said, quote, talks a big game about border security, but he does not walk the walk. I'm sorry, who was against border walls and increased security at the border? What? Oh my God. Okay. The vice president has in recent weeks tried to seize the political offensive on an issue that Trump and top Republicans have frequently used to slam her and the Biden administration. In doing so, Harris is hoping to drive a wedge with Republicans. Well, if that's her strategy, to pretend as though the last 3.5, nigh on 4 years didn't actually happen, that all the rhetoric in the campaign leading up to 2020 and the actions taken thereafter just didn't happen, and hope that nobody remembers, I guess that is a strategy. I guess that is a strategy. I may have done a video or 3 on the border situation over time in the last couple of years. I may have. Just saying. Because the vice president's portfolio in the Biden administration included the root causes of migration, and due to some of her comments before the 2020 election, many leading GOP voices have sought to portray her as weak on the southern border and enabling illegal immigration. You don't need to portray her as weak. No, you don't need to portray anything. She has done it herself, all by her lonesome. It's not that difficult to do. And AP, you should be telling us about her track record on her assignments as border czar. Trump himself has said of Harris, quote, as a border czar, she's been the worst border czar in history, in the world history, unquote. The former president proposed mass deportations if he returns to the White House, but AP Votecast found in 2020 that nearly 7 in 10 Nevada voters said that immigrants living in the United States illegally should be offered the chance to apply for legal status. No. The answer should be no. We're not talking about a small number of people at this point, either already in the country or those trying to get into the country. No, either we draw a line and mean it, or we don't, and the problem persists. I don't know what to tell you. 7 in 10 Nevada voters are very short-sighted on this subject, apparently. Still, policy aside, many of the rally goers in Las Vegas said they were thrilled to see the new energy Harris and Walz have brought to the race. Krista Hall, 60, and her husband, Thaddeus Hager, 58. That's a great name. I love the name Thaddeus. Thaddeus Hager, 58, said they haven't been more excited about an election since Barack Obama's campaign in 2008. Why is that? Quote, this is an eclectic, if not more than. This is as electric, not eclectic. Boy, oh boy. This is as electric, if not more than, Hall said, noting that they attended several Obama rallies at the time. Hager said he's confident that Harris and Walz will, quote, win in a landslide, unquote. On what basis? I mean, Barack Obama had energy, he had youth, he had actual policy positions and things. How does that compare to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz at this point? The Democratic ticket over the past week also visited the crucial Midwestern blue wall states of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Along with Nevada and Arizona, those states represent 61 electoral votes that could be essential for reaching the 270 threshold required to win on Election Day. Brian Shaw, a Republican from Northern Nevada, said Harris's arrival on the top of the ticket could make it harder for Trump to win because Biden was a, quote, pitiful candidate, unquote. And there's little time to expose the vice president's, quote, incompetence, unquote, he said. He said he attended the Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance's rally in Reno on July 30th and found him to be likable, capable, polished as a politician, but not veneered, unquote. Oh, there's plenty of time to show her competence. Just wait for her first real interview and a debate. Why hasn't she given an official interview yet? Why hasn't she given an official press conference with questions yet? It is a bit conspicuous, isn't it? Just wait. Oh, just wait. Now, is that going to change the minds of anybody who's diehard voting for Kamala and never Trump? No. Kamala could get on the stage and be exactly the same Kamala as she's been for the last 3.5, 4 years in giving an interview and trying to answer tough questions and trying to give any kind of clarity on her policy positions or anything else. And it won't matter. Because at this point, it's not about the competence of the individual. It's just tribal. So there's still a very good chance that Kamala Harris may be the next president of the United States. You know, the first president of the United States to have never won a primary. It's going to be something. It's going to be something. She ended up as vice president, not even placing in a primary. And now how many times do you end up in the White House not winning a primary or not even placing in the top 3 in a primary? But twice and become president. That's something. It's something. Anyway, what do you guys have to say about this? Oh, Satsu 2 cents. Hey, it's Satsu. He also deported the most immigrants than any other president in history. Who, Trump? Yeah, actually holding people to the law. I know. But also, guys, it's Satsu 2 cents. Do you know about Satsu? Well, let me tell you about Satsu. This is my friend Satsu, aka Chef Tyrone, founder, owner, and CEO of Oishi Fried Chicken LLC, featuring a new line of signature spice mixes. Chef Tyrone's homemade blends are the perfect gateway to delicious fried chicken or any other protein you might prefer. These recipes were painstakingly tested in Tyrone's home kitchen to bring you all the fantastic flavors you and your family can enjoy. The current flavor lineup includes original, spicy, lemon garlic herb, barbecue rub, and taco seasoning. You can buy individual packs of your favorite flavors or save some money with a variety bundle, all through the online store. And Oishi Fried Chicken ships nationwide. Go to www.oishifc.com and order today. And also, there you go. There you go, Satsu. And also, I said, no, Obama. Oh, Obama. Well, Obama did deport a whole lot of people, but he also deferred deportation to a whole lot of people as well. People who should have been kicked out of the country. He just said, well, as long as you check in every 4 months or something, you can stick around. And then Trump came into office and was like, no, we're stopping that now. And then suddenly became a tragedy beyond tragedy. Some of my earliest deportation games videos were just all about people who had been in the country illegally for years. Obama just kind of hand waved away their violations. And then suddenly Trump comes into office and is like, no, that kind of amnesty ends right now. And then suddenly it's like this, oh my God, what a tragedy. This is so unjust and everything else. Like, no, you are in violation of the law. You should have gone years ago, but Obama gave you a pass. Obama was kind of schizophrenic on the whole thing. But yeah, they do gloss over the fact that he deported tons and tons of people during his time. But he also soft-walked on a lot of people as well and gave lots of people encouragement to just, if they can just get across that border, if they can just get to a sanctuary city. Anyway, let's see. Gerald Ford never won a single primary. Yeah, he kind of, he kind of squeaked in there, didn't he? Yeah. I don't like that. I don't like people. I mean, I understand there's some circumstances where it's just a matter of, necessity. I mean, the vice president is there to take over if the president is unable to do his job, whether he's impeached, whether some illness, so someone can get into the office without ever winning a primary. But Kamala Harris utterly did not win her primary. She became vice president for reasons we can all see. And now she might become president of the United States, never having won a primary, subverting the entire process after her president had already said he was going to run and won the primaries and everything else. It's goofy. It's goofy. And they want to talk about, the preservation of the democratic process. And they complain about Trump questioning the election. And now they've got somebody in the office who never had to go through a primary process and win. But they just anointed her. And I've done, if you look at my playlist for the chaos over Kamala Harris, it's not like she's been doing a heck of a lot to impress anybody over the last 4 years in her service as vice president. But now, because she's not Trump, here we are again. Anyway, let's see. Anything else here? Blue-eyed Scream. Jack Murphy is reinventing himself, going from alpha male to weight loss guru. Yeah, weight loss probably because his ability to pay for his meals has gone down. Yeah, anybody will try anything to try to recreate their previous success after being shown to be a complete goofball. Let's see. Anything else? All right, we're going to move on to the next story. So that was but I have an addendum to that. So I put this story up onto the Twitters, as I do, and there was a bit of an odd reaction almost instantaneously. I said, so her first solid policy position is one already stated by her opponent, #choice 2024. And then immediately, within like 2 minutes, I get this. No, Kamala's is a plan that benefits working class people, and the other plan benefits conservative elites. Okay, now remember, the plan is to remove taxes on tips for restaurant and service workers. And the exact same policy position has been taken by Kamala and Trump, but somehow Kamala's helps working class people and the other one benefits conservative elites. And I'm like, ending taxes on tips does both of those things, huh? No, ending taxes on bonuses for conservative elites just helps them. Conservative elites are restaurant and service workers? Man, elite sure has gone through a definition change. Not much happened after that, but I was just kind of like, what? A cognitive dissonance. One person says one thing, another person says the exact same thing, but somehow person one's version is good and person two's version is bad. That's what I dealt with last night briefly. So that was interesting. Anyway, let's move on to the next story. Let's talk about Tim Walz, someone who I'd never heard of before, or at least not in any recent context until the last couple of weeks. But boy, everybody is looking into what he's been saying for years. It's not looking good as far as someone who is honest. And these examples keep coming up. I've seen at least 2 more clips of Tim Walz over the years from CNN and C-SPAN and a couple other things now that are other examples of him misspeaking, as they're calling it. Walz misspoke in saying he served in war, Harris campaign says. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, quote unquote, misspoke, not lied, everybody. It's not a lie. He just misspoke. In a newly resurfaced video from 2018 in which he said he handled assault weapons in war, a Harris campaign spokesperson told CNN on Saturday. Now, this is just one of several instances of Tim Walz categorizing himself as a veteran of war, actual war. This might be, perhaps, the most tame of the examples, but we'll see if the article covers any of the others. Walz's military record has been heavily scrutinized by Republicans, including GOP vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance, after Walz was tapped as Vice President Kamala Harris's running mate on Monday. Vance has accused the Minnesota governor of stolen valor, pointing to a video from 2018 circulated by the Harris campaign this week of Walz referring to weapons, quote, that I carried in war, unquote, while explaining his support for an assault weapons ban. Quote, "We can make sure those weapons of war that I carried in war are only carried in war," unquote, Walz said in the video. Lauren Hitt, a Harris campaign spokesperson, said in a statement the governor misspoke in the clip. Quote, "Governor Walz would never insult or undermine any American service to this country. In fact, he thanks Senator Vance for putting his life on the line for our country. It's the American way," unquote, Hitt said in the statement. Okay, well, what about him saying that he carried weapons in war? He would never insult or undermine any American service. Well, he wasn't doing that. He was glorifying himself. I mean, that is an interesting way to sort of dodge the question. But let's see. Quote, "In making the case for why weapons of war should never be on our streets or in our classrooms, the governor misspoke," Hitt continued. Quote, "He did handle weapons of war. Sure. That I carried in war. Yes, he handled weapons of war. Yes. He did handle weapons of war and believes strongly that only military members trained to carry those deadly weapons should have access to them, unlike Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, who prioritize the gun lobby over our children." You're not addressing that I carried in war. If you didn't have that part in there, if the whole thing is we can make sure those weapons of war are only carried in war, there'd be no controversy. But he made a claim of his own status and actions. You haven't addressed any of that. Walz served in the Army National Guard for 24 years before retiring to run for Congress in 2005. Yeah, very conveniently and very timely retiring to run for Congress. He deployed with his unit to Italy in 2003 in support of the U.S.'s war effort in Afghanistan, but did not deploy to a combat zone as part of his service. The clarification from the Harris campaign comes as the Trump campaign has sought to discredit Walz's military service in the days since he joined the Democratic ticket. Well, at this point, and with the other examples coming out, Tim Walz is doing that all by his lonesome. Because apparently the mainstream press isn't willing to look too deeply into his service until they're forced to. But the Trump campaign has to point these things out as they come about. And of course, you have internet sleuths par excellence going through every clip of every speech that Tim Walz has ever given since 2000, basically, about anything dealing with his military service. And they're finding more and more examples of him making claims that are patently false about his service. So, I don't know. At a Michigan campaign event on Wednesday, Vance, a Marine Corps veteran, are you sure? You know, I want to check on that. Accused Walz of being dishonest about his record as part of a series of attacks on the governor's military record. Quote, "What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage," unquote, Vance said. Quote, "I'd be ashamed if I were him and lied about my military service like he did," unquote. At a campaign rally in Bozeman, Montana on Friday, Trump made a brief reference to the attacks on Walz from Vance and other Republicans while praising Montana's GOP Senate candidate Tim Sheehy, a former Navy SEAL. Quote, "His really is valor. It's Valor for Heroism Award. You know, the other one talks about valor. He has a different kind of valor. It's the opposite," unquote, Trump said. Well, you see, now, if this piece here was being honest, they would have done a deep dive on Walz's actual service and gone through all of his claims that he's made about his service and checked them against his record. But no, it's just, oh, well, you know, this person said this and this person said that. And, you know, is there anything in here that actually analyzes Tim Walz's service up against his claims? No, it's just that, well, this side that said this and this side that said that, and there you go. It's fair and balanced. Yeah. This is going to keep going until it doesn't. Until Tim Walz comes out and apologizes or goes over every instance where he said he did something and he didn't. But is this the biggest deal in the world, politically speaking? No. It does go to the credibility of Tim Walz. It does set up a whole bunch of problems ahead of the Democratic convention. Remember, the Democratic convention to pick the presidential candidate hasn't actually happened yet. Unofficially speaking, Kamala Harris has all the votes that she needs to gain the ticket. That there won't be or can't be any further backdoor or backroom wheeling and dealing over, vice presidential picks or otherwise between now and then, there still could be changes. This could be a crazy, crazy convention for the Democrats, depending on what happens the next week or two. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. And also, it just, how much vetting did the Harris campaign do to verify his claims about his military service? Because you're obviously picking this guy in part for his military service, right? Not only for his political savvy, however you might want to categorize that, but also for his military service, because you need something on the ticket, right, that speaks to military service. Joe Biden at least had his son, right? He had his son. He had a connection to the military. He could say that he was a military family, etc. There's always got to be some element of the military or some kind of governmental military service on the ticket. It really helps out the ticket. Tim Walz brought that directly, personally. And somehow you guys didn't spot these problems in his claims and record before you decided to pick him as the candidate, as the VP pick. You didn't vet him enough to find these weaknesses ahead of time, or did you and you didn't care? I don't know. I don't know if it goes to Kamala's campaign incompetence or Kamala's campaign just lackadaisical nature of they're making it up. They just don't care. It's their apathy. That's the word I was looking for. Apathy, not lackadaisical. It's tough out here being an English major. Anyway, I'll see what you guys have to say real quick, and then we'll get on to what I have as the final item for today's episode. Spoonie the Rebel, plus he won't upstage Kamala like Shapiro would have. Well, that was one of the things that I kept saying when they were going through the selection process or the deliberation process of picking a vice presidential candidate. You have to find somebody who's not going to upstage the candidate, because Kamala Harris, politically speaking, has what to brag about? She had a milquetoast Senate career briefly before she ran for president, failed at running for president, blew a $40 million war chest, couldn't even gain the support of her own state in the primaries. And then she's selected to be vice president, not because of her merit, but first and foremost because of her gender, and secondarily because of her race. And she's done what in that position since then? Well, she's only allowed to do what the president assigns her to do, right? The vice president serves at the pleasure of the president. The vice president's only on-paper responsibilities are to take over for the president in the case of being incapacitated or some way, or killed, and to break ties in the Senate. Everything after that is completely at the discretion of the president. And her first assignment out of the gate, you're going to oversee immigration problems. You are the new border czar. Utter and absolute failure. Embarrassingly failure. In front of Lester Holt failure. It couldn't have gotten worse. And what's she done since then? Oh, well, she's spearheaded the abortion debate and everything. To do what? What has she accomplished in that role? They keep talking about that. It's like, okay, the Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade. Okay, now it goes back to the states. Individual states now get to make their decisions about how they want to treat abortion. All right, Kamala Harris is at the forefront of this topic. Great. What has she done? I've said this any number of times before. I would love to see a story about Kamala Harris going into a state that either has uncertainty about what to do about abortion or has made a decision counter to her position on abortion, and hear what she's been doing to try to change or move the needle in the direction that she believes is the correct one. Now, whether or not she succeeds in her efforts is, to me, kind of beside the point. I just want to see, okay, if this is her focus, if this is her ballywick, show me what she's done. Whether she won or lost, I want to see what efforts she's made to argue her position to the people in power in each individual state, and what gains or losses she's had. Because, again, I'll take somebody on the side of what they believe in and failing as much as I will someone who does the same thing and wins, because at least they're standing behind their principles. And I can see, or at least have an example of their leadership ability and their ability to work within the system. Now, whether I agree with their position or not is less important to me when considering these things than seeing that someone's effective in a leadership role. When have we seen any evidence that Kamala Harris is effective in a leadership role? I have done story after story, stream after stream, looking at articles from both outlets that are favorable to the Democratic Party and outlets that aren't. And yet, in either case, there's no movement in my mind that Kamala Harris has shown herself to be an effective leader on anything. So, regardless of my political position, if I'm looking for somebody to run the country, I want to at least know that there's somebody there who can get things done. What has Kamala Harris gotten done? I keep waiting, right? And under her own steam, not as default, not because she stumbled into it, but because she actually did something. What is a direct personal success of Kamala Harris since she's become vice president, that she's moved the needle on any policy position or made any gains on anything of her platform, which she has no platform. She still doesn't have a platform. Again, this whole dropping taxes on restaurant and service workers was the first policy position that she's stated in her campaign. Her website, as far as I know, as of this moment, could have changed now. Maybe they put up the whole taxes thing. Doesn't have any policy positions, just a bunch of donation links. Anyway, I could go on, but why? I'll take another couple comments from you guys, and then we'll get on to the last item of the show. Gilcado. How do I say that? Lackadaisical. That's the first time I've heard that used organically and not in the neo-PIR psych test companies use during recruitment screening. Lackadaisical. Yeah, I love that word. It took me a long time. Well, it's either lackadaisical or lackadaisical. It depends on who you are and how you want to say it. I think it's a West Coast, East Coast thing. I have attempted, and you can judge how successful. I have attempted over time to really play up the fact that my only qualification for doing anything in life is my English degree. And I figure in order to sort of justify that, I have to use somewhat obscure esoteric words from time to time to show off that I know something that others don't. It's my only form of elitism. I have an English degree. It's a rubber stamp, guys. It doesn't mean anything. Oh, God. My whole life is a lie. No, but, this is how I preserve my ego. This is all I got. So, yeah, I appreciate you underscoring my vocabulary. It's really all that I have. I got nothing else. I really don't. Setsu, she does have a platform, Scribe. It's not being Trump. Well, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's the same platform that Joe Biden had. But at least Joe Biden had, for all his other faults, he actually had experience within the system. He had some tenure. He had some actual anecdotes and connections and some leverage he could apply, given that he's basically just been a politician his entire life. Kamala's got none of that. All she has is I'm not Trump. That's it. Or she's got her aesthetics, because her record is horrible in comparison to what she did versus what she says now. Every time that she does a public appearance, every time she's off script, I honestly cannot wait for her first press conference. I cannot wait for her first one-on-one interview. And I honestly cannot wait for the debates, because here's the thing. We're going to have, this is my prediction, we're going to have a similar situation to the debate between Trump and Biden just a couple months ago. The debate that broke the entire Biden campaign, because Trump was just being Trump. And if you listen to Trump, Trump is oftentimes as incoherent as Joe. He's just not absent-minded about it. I listened to his rally at, where was it? Oh, it was just the other night. I suddenly forget where it was. Anyway, I listened to the first half hour, 45 minutes of his rally the other night, and he was just all over the place. All over the place. He'd start a thought, he'd just drop it, he'd move on to the next thing, he'd say something, he'd kind of trail off. It wasn't a very inspiring speech. And you could tell very cleanly when he was just rambling to where he would turn and actually read from the teleprompter something that was pre-scripted for him. And I thought, okay, if this gets some people excited, if this makes people think that he's, just sort of your ordinary guy or just the guy that you want to like hang out with or makes jokes, it's like, okay, whatever. I've never been particularly impressed with Trump's political chops, and certainly not with his speeches and such or his rallies, but okay. But the thing is that is a known quantity, right? So when Trump and Biden got up to debate a couple of months ago now, I guess it was just a couple of months ago, everybody knew Trump. Biden had been out of the spotlight, literally, because the campaign kept him away for so long. They hadn't seen him like out in front, no script, no coddling by the media. He was right there in quite a while. And he bombed. And somehow that was unexpected from people. Trump was just being Trump, but that wasn't the news story because Trump is a known quantity. Biden, in his mental state, was somehow an unknown quantity. Now we go on to Kamala. Okay, anybody who's paid attention to Kamala in an unscripted environment over the last 4 years knows what to expect. But at this point, you've got a lot of people probably just sort of like doing, shadowing their minds. The clouding men's minds, the shadow is doing here. Right? There's going, oh no, Kamala's going to be great. Kamala's this, she's younger and more energetic or something. When the debate between Kamala and Trump happens, it's going to be another disaster, but particularly for Kamala, because again, Trump is a known quantity. Kamala, this is her first she's on her own, big girl pants. She's got nobody to fall back on. She doesn't have Biden to protect her. She's all on her own. But even that is not going to stop people from voting for her. There's a very good chance Kamala Harris could be the next president. The not Trump message alone might be enough to drive people to vote for her. Hold their noses and vote for her, especially on the Democratic side. They can't have Trump again. And this is the only option they've been given. This is the only option that politically they can take. Because if they try to deny a woman of color the opportunity to become president when it's right there in front of them. Anyway, it's going to be something. It's going to be something. I can't wait for the debate. I honestly can't wait for a one-on-one, no-holds-barred interview with Kamala Harris from any reputable news site. Here's the thing. Even the most friendly news organization, to maintain their reputation, is going to have to hit Kamala with some hard questions. Otherwise, nobody's going to take them seriously. They're going to be between a rock and a hard place. And they're going to have to. And it's not going to be pretty. I seriously doubt that Kamala Harris is ready. The fact that she has not given or done a press conference or done a direct interview so far after becoming the anointed nominee is bizarre. Absolutely bizarre that we're this far into it and she hasn't even given a direct, hard-nosed interview yet. So we'll see. Scribelight, how many times do you think she'll cackle during the debate? Every time that she needs a moment to try to craft an answer. Every time that she is called out on something by Trump, or that the interviewers, the moderators, ask a particularly difficult question, she'll be grinning and chuckling to herself to try to buy time or to cover up whoever's speaking in her earpiece. I'm still pretty sure that Biden had an earpiece in his debate with Trump. There were times where you'd see Biden, his eyes would look down and to the right when he's trying to form an answer, and not in other instances. And I keep thinking his eyes are automatically looking towards the direction of the sound that is being received by the earpiece in his ear. I mean, that's my conspiracy theory. My conspiracy theory is that even in that debate, he was being given prompts from outside. I just got a feeling. So let's see. So Scribbles has a word count or word of the day. Well, I use a word of the day for getting access to the Discord server. And thanks for reminding me, because I didn't already create a link to the Discord server for today. So I'm going to do that right now, and I will put that out at the end of the show. Anyway, let's move on to the last piece today. I found a video, if you can believe it, a DEI video that apparently purports to give us some DEI myths Exploding the myth of diversity. Let me get officially set up here for the sun. There we go. All right. So I just found this randomly. It's like 6.5 minutes long. If you'll recall, I did a live stream, I believe it was just last Sunday, where we had a panel of guests talking about and trying to dispel myths about DEI. I even had on the thumbnail DEI Mythbusters. Were any myths about DEI busted during that panel discussion? Not a one. It was very telling, and it was a very recent presentation. This wasn't something from years ago. It was just within the last couple of weeks or so. But I thought I'd give another chance. So here's a different person talking about effectively the same subject. Lesson 2, exploding the myth of diversity. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to accurately characterize diversity. This is a training manual, guys. This is an educational presentation. This is doing the heart work of anti-racism and inclusion given to us by a master trainer on-demand course. This is school, y'all. I'm taking y'all to school. Are you ready? I don't know if I am. Let's find out. I also removed the musical cue at the front because I don't know if that's copyrighted or something.
We've probably all heard that expression, begin with the end in mind.
I've heard similar things, maybe not exactly that text, but sure.
Well, I'm giving you the end of this lesson now,
Okay.
and then we'll work our way to the beginning.
That's fine by me. I've read many a story where we see like the last scene completely out of context, and then it's like, well, let me back up a little bit, or 2 weeks earlier or something. But okay, what is the end of this lesson?
Are you ready?
I was born ready.
Here it is.
Okay.
There's no such thing as a diversity candidate.
I have a feeling there's more words coming after this.
There's no such thing as a diversity hire.
I feel like I'm being gaslit. Okay, well then what exactly is the purpose of a DEI process where that first letter, that first step in said process is the word diversity? Okay, all right. You know what? Like I say, I watch these things to learn. All right, so by the end of this, we're going to learn that there's no such thing as a diversity candidate, and there's no such thing as a diversity hire. All right. Let's see. Satsu, do you want to come on? I mean, you're in the audience. Maybe you don't want to. Maybe you don't. Do you want to come on for this? I'm happy to have you on. I'll send you the link. I don't know if you're set up for sound right now, but let me know. I figured, yeah, while you're here, I'll give it a minute or two for things to catch up. You let me know. If you're not interested, that's perfectly fine too. Oh, okay. Well, hey, there we go. I'm gonna pause here for a moment, guys, and I'm gonna get Satsu the link. I've turned off my Twitter because of stuff, and oh god, it's all about VPN connections and things. Satsu, I'm going to email you the link. I hope that's not too goofy. Wait a second. I received a DMCA notice on my Twitter account because I retweeted a piece of video from the Marvel presentation. What? What? So there was a clip from the Marvel presentation at D23 that showed the Red Hulk. And I said, hello, PS3 graphics. And it says, the following material has been removed from your account in response to the DMC takedown notice copied at the bottom of this email. And Disney Enterprises apparently zapped anybody who retweeted that. Okay. I don't think that means my account has been destroyed, but I don't know because it happened just before I went live with this show. What the heck? Okay, you know what? I'm sending the link to you at Satsu at your Gmail account on Satsu 2 cents. Satsu. Apologies for the that is bizarre. Okay, so does that mean that my account's been like do I have any other penalties, or does it just mean the tweet has been taken down? I think it just means my tweet has been removed. But okay. Sorry guys, I'm just finding this out right now, and I don't know if this means that I've been somehow like penalized in some way, shape, or form. Okay, the following materials. So just the one. You know. My tweet was "Hello PS3 graphics # Captain America Brave New World" when it was showing the Red Hulk. I'm baffled right now. I'm baffled. I hope I am not going to be inordinately penalized for having made a joke on Twitter. But as the British police have been telling us over the last day or two, I could be extradited if I say the wrong thing. I could be given a free trip to Britain if I say the wrong thing on the YouTubes right now, which would be something, I guess. Let's see. So I'll wait for Satsu to pop in here. In the meantime, I'll take some more comments from you guys. Let's see. Faithless says, sounds like Disney taking the L on their own content. I guess. I mean, it was footage that someone had filmed like with their smartphone at the Marvel presentation at D23. And it showed the Red Hulk like rising up from behind a podium or whatever. And I mean, it looked pretty lame. It looked pretty lame. I mean, the Hulk from the 2008 Incredible Hulk movie looked better than the Red Hulk in this footage. And like I said, it looked like PS3 graphics. Now, admittedly, it was a piece of footage taken from someone's camera from a screen at an auditorium. So yeah, maybe it was better in person than it was otherwise, but it still looked meh. Either way, it's like I just made a comment on somebody else's video and it gets taken down because I said, oh, it's a boy, oh boy. Disney is embarrassed. Let's see. Most likely the tweet was struck down. I guess so. It's because my comment was attached. I should have taken a screenshot. If I'd taken a screenshot rather than commented on the actual tweet, I'd probably be in safe territory. But because my comment was attached to that tweet as a result of the quoting, I guess I'm just done. Let's see. Is that Brianna Joy Graham? I don't think so. I don't believe so. I don't know if they gave us her name ahead of time. Hold on.
Well, expression. Begin with the end in mind.
Yeah, I don't think so. Terry Alexander scribbles, tell those limey loving, biscuit eating, monarchy having tea drinkers they can kiss your American ass they want to try. I'm still waiting for the first story of someone actually getting extradited for making a comment. I'd really love to see that. I'd love to see how that works out. All right, we have with us Satsu 2 cents.
Yep.
Let's see. There we go. Welcome to the show, Satsu 2 cents, with your... I don't know that I've ever seen that logo before. What is that?
It is a non-existent thing that doesn't exist anymore.
Okay, then. Well, then, Satsu, for anybody out there who has no idea who you are or what you do, who are you and what do you do?
I'm a black dude.
Well, now, you have given as much information as any Democratic voter needs to vote for Kamala Harris.
Vote for me for president.
There you go. That's it. That's what qualifies, guys. That's it. Aesthetics are the important things.
I am, as far as I know, not Trump. So.
You see, now, you have all of the resume necessary to be a presidential candidate right now.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
That's it. All right. So I've backed up a little bit, but let's take on, in these less than 7 minutes, what this lady has to say about DEI. Are you ready, Satsu?
I am ready.
All right. And here we go again.
Well, I'm giving you the end of this lesson now, and then we'll work our way to the beginning.
I love that in Hollywood scripts and everything. You give us like, how did we get here?
Well,
They show us like something, and then they show the lead up to it all.
you remember the comment that I left because you saw me, you saw the comment, but I don't think you read it out loud.
Oh,
When I was saying that she's going to have the conclusion set for you first. And I'm like, isn't that interesting how that's kind of the philosophy where it's like, you try to figure out what the issue is and you find the evidence to try to contradict it, to prove that, this is a thing. Like, obviously, if you want to prove something's true, you look actively for the counter arguments and try to, defunct those. But she's like, no, I'm going to give you the conclusion out of the gate. And now I'm going to convince you that it's real. Like, we're not going to.
Right.
It's so weird, man.
It's like it's similar to I've made this comparison before. If I'm walking down the street and somebody's trying to sell me something, they make a claim about the product. They say, "Hey, I've got this thing that does this thing, and you should buy it." And so the onus is on them to prove to me the value of their thing, right? Whereas if somebody says, "Hey, I want to talk to you about empathy," and how I'm trying to increase empathy. And so now the onus is on me, because if I don't listen to this person, well, then I'm being accused of not having empathy or not caring about empathy. They always use that kind of thing to start off by saying, this thing has an intrinsic value because what I'm putting on it is something that no one could consider a bad thing.
Yeah, so it kind of puts you into a position. It's just like, all right, so before we start this conversation, I want to let you know that if you disagree with me, you're a Nazi. All right, let's talk.
Exactly. Yeah, like... they front load it with a moral risk of not listening to or believing the person. And then they coat whatever they have to sell in that. It's sort of like Black Lives Matter as a title for something. If I say Black Lives Matter, well, of course. And now I've wrapped that around all this terrible stuff underneath.
Yeah, it was the same thing with Antifa. It's like, but it's in the name, clearly. Yes. And I'm like, well, I'm anti-punch you in the face. And then I punch him right in the face. And I'm just...
Right. It's the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Who could argue with a Democratic People's Republic of Korea, which means that North Korea must be the best place in the world. Anyway, all right. So she's going to front load everything with the conclusion.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Here it is.
Okay.
There's no such thing as a diversity candidate.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
There's no such thing as a diversity hire.
Okay. So that's where we're ending up. That diversity actually isn't a real thing in consideration of someone's job possibilities or the successful attainment of employment. Okay.
Now, let's go back to the dance.
Okay.
As you recall, diversity at the dance is all of us, all of the visible and the invisible traits, characteristics, and experiences we bring.
No, it's primarily the visible ones. DEI cares very little about the invisible experiences or abilities of someone. DEI consultants come into a company and they assess first and foremost the population on the basis of racial and or gender and or in some cases sexual orientation demographic, if they can get that information, which is kind of a sketchy thing to acquire.
Yes, and the biggest proof of that is ask them how they assess white people, because they may be multifaceted on assessing, people of color or whatever. Maybe they'll look more into it, figure out where they came from or why. But white people are just white. It doesn't matter if they're poor. It doesn't matter if they're rich. It doesn't matter if they're, downtrodden or anything. They're just white people, and they're all the same.
Yeah, merit is not a consideration at all in the first pass. The first pass is, what is the racial demographic of your workforce? And if you have more of one kind of person than others, specifically white people, specifically men, specifically straight white men, then you have a problem. And that's when the consultant comes in and actually has some work to do. And then everything after that follows. Well, after that, you can look into people's individual skills and experiences. But the first filter is, are they white? Are they male? Are they straight? And the fewer number of those elements that you can get into your candidates or your talent pool or whatever else, the better off you are. And then you can start assessing them on their merits while excluding a whole swath of the population wherein there may be people who are more qualified, but they don't look the part.
Yeah, so much so that we got game developers who actively brag. Like, I think I saw this one lady say, I am proud to announce that there are absolutely no white people in my company or in my game.
Right.
And I'm just like, you're proud to announce that, huh?
Yeah. It's such a regression from where I thought we were supposed to be by now, but what do I know? Anyway, reminder, guys, this video is part 2 of something. So she's going to be referring to, I guess, a previous installment or whatever here and there. And so that's why she's saying, as we previously talked about. So we haven't missed anything. It's just that this was the video that popped up to me, and it's, as the title said, this is a second entry in a series.
And experiences we bring. And because of what we all bring, the dance is diverse. So far, so good, right?
It depends on how you define diverse, but okay.
Here's where things start to go south.
Okay.
When someone refers to a diversity candidate or a diversity hire, who are they typically talking about?
Non-white, non-male, non-straight in some combination.
It's probably exclusively the people you target for that. See, the mind games that she's playing is very interesting here, because the question is, who does those services that you created, these diversity initiatives, what is your target? Because whatever your target is their target. But now they're about to try to flip it and say, no, the people who think of these candidates only think of these people. It's like, those are the only people you made it for.
Yeah.
But
they're racist for it. We're not.
Yeah. Who is this built to benefit first and foremost, and or to denigrate? As just intrinsically as of what it is. It's turning it into an accusation. If I start looking at the results of DEI, I'm the bad guy for making observations about reality.
Well, it's just like, we have an initiative to hire exclusively Black people. Hello, Black person, you're hired. And it's like, wow, that's kind of weird that she just showed up out of nowhere. Oh, what? You think she just got hired because she's Black? It's
right.
Like, well, yeah, because you just said that was your initiative. Wow, what a fucking racist. Just like, wait, hold on.
I have a distinct impression that this video might be gaslight the incumbent. No, what's the word? I'm looking for a word here. Gaslight the obfuscating.
Yes,
that's what it is. I'm making a White Wolf Games reference that only nerds will get. But anyway, thank you, Hoko Sports. Latino shooting equals whites. Latino shot, not white. I'm confuzzled. Maybe I'm missing something here. Latino shooting, whites, Latino shot, not white. I need some context, Hoko. I appreciate the donation, but I'm not sure. I don't want to start, writing checks I can't cash. So you don't have to donate again, but just make sure I got your point. Did you restate it? Or maybe Satsu, maybe I'm missing something.
No, I don't get it either.
Okay. All right. Appreciate the donation, Hoko. If it's some I'm missing something in translation, which might be part of the joke for all I know. Hoop McDinglefart.
Excuse me. You just put a fucking spell on me, dude.
Hello, Scribe. That is such an earworm. Well, what's an earworm? I need context. Don't leave out the context. If I'm getting a compliment, please tell me what I did good. Missing a comma between whites, Latino. Okay, Latino shooting equals whites. Latino shot equals not white. I still need some translation here.
Is this related to like a recent story that
I don't know. That's the thing. It's like I want to understand. This is the driving force of my entire TEDx series. I want to understand. When I see something that makes my brain go, huh? I want to try to understand it, even if I don't end up, agreeing with it or something else. I want to at least understand it. And so in this case, Hoko Sports has presented me with a puzzle that I can't help but want to solve. And I know it's done in good faith. I just need more information. So just lay it out to me. Okay, here we go. I think this. Okay. Whites aren't always white. True, but others can be considered white if they act badly, like Trey on. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Latinos, depending on the circumstances, can be listed under Caucasian or something, as long as they're not like demonstrably black or something.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You know what? I assumed that that's kind of what they meant, but I like my brain wasn't putting the pieces together.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yes. Yeah. They're depending on the political or ideological viability of an incident or a situation, they can group certain demographics together in one instance and then separate them out in another instance to whatever becomes more viable for their argument.
Yo, we've had quite a few instances of like shooters or stuff that we've seen like that, or somebody who caused like violence or whatever.
Right.
Where the
Trayvon Martin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Trayvon Martin, the person who shot Trayvon Martin, was this a white on black crime?
Or the person who did the shooting was Latino. Like their name was like fucking like Jose Martinez, and they're like, white shooter killed a bunch of people, and I'm just like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, whatever helps the narrative most, they can sort of move the line as to what qualifies someone into this demographic versus that demographic.
Kind of how Kamala is black now all of a sudden.
Oh man, I wish. I see when I was watching that, I watched that. Sorry guys for the aside, but yeah, Trump did that interview thing with the I think it was the National Black Journalists Association or something.
Yeah, that interview was a.
There was so many opportunities for him. If Trump was a more coherent speaker and could stay on point, he could have really, really made some good jibes in there.
He could have. Yeah, he had a lot of opportunities. But
yeah, especially. Go ahead.
He let that lady piss him off out the gate.
Yeah,
like she made him mad out the gate, and he came out swinging because of that. Because he was very docile with it. Like once that other lady took over, like the everything got back on the rails. But that I'm pretty sure that was her plan. She's like, I'm gonna come out and just flat out insult this dude, like straight to his face, and tell him he's a fucking piece of shit, right out of the gate. To agitate him or frustrate him or whatever, so that way he'll get inflammatory like he usually does with everybody. But we're black women, so now it'll be different, and they'll be like, "See, we told you he hates black women. Look how he talks to us." Yeah,
see, he's so easily flustered into just going off the rails. But the part that really got me, that really annoyed me, was when she started asking him about DEI. He's a DEI candidate, and he starts out kind of strong. He says, "Well, what is DEI?" And she says, "Well, it means diversity, equity, and inclusion." And I was like, at that point, his response after that was just kind of like shrug. Oh, okay, whatever. And I was like, no, dude, you had the perfect opportunity to completely lay to waste the whole DEI thing right there. I would have said, okay, so as I've said any number of times before, so when I say the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, those words actually equate to the output of that organization, is what you're saying. Right, simply calling something DEI and using three words that by themselves might sound good means that the thing is good. Is that correct? I would have had a field day with that lady on that point. I wouldn't have let it go. But he just kind of shrugged his shoulders and let it go. And I'm like, dude, oh my God, it was so frustrating to see somebody with such a prime opportunity to completely undercut the entire ethos of DEI on a public stage that everybody's paying attention to. And he just kind of lets it go, and anyway.
And then he just kept taking shots at her, like unwarranted, like throughout the whole thing, just like randomly.
This is why I'm not a big fan of Trump when it comes to maintaining. If Trump had more of a bedside manner and a cooler head about these things, he could make so many really good points in the opportunities that he's been given by the ideologically crazed, and he just doesn't do it. And it's really frustrating to watch because regardless of my political leanings one way or the other, there's some things that I've learned over time that are demonstrably bad things, like DEI. It really doesn't matter who's promoting it. It's just a bad idea if you think about it for 10 minutes. And so any opportunity to try to strike that down that is missed or just given up or conceded to the other side really irritates me. Anyway, speak of the devil, let's keep going.
I'll give you one guess.
Oh, sorry. I missed context and I need to back up.
Who are they typically talking about? I'll give you one guess. It's used to refer to members of marginalized groups.
Really? You mean the group that you targeted by making the initiative in the first place?
I'm going to back up a little bit more because I didn't back up enough.
Here's where things start to go south. When someone refers to a diversity candidate or a diversity hire, who are they typically talking about?
Again, non-male, non-white, non-straight, in some combination thereof. That's it.
I'll give you one guess.
I already made it.
It's used to refer to members of marginalized groups.
Well, marginalized in the sense that they are non-white, non-male, non-straight. But yes, because DEI is there to lift up people who otherwise, by the estimations of the ideologues, have no chance otherwise unless someone takes pity on them for what they are. In that sense, I guess you're correct, if that's what you mean. That's probably not what you think you mean.
Here's another question.
Okay.
When someone refers to a diversity candidate or hire, who are they not talking about?
Straight white men.
Again, one guess.
Straight white men. Anytime now.
It's never used to characterize members of the majority group.
The majority group?
But why would it be?
Yeah.
Like just why would it be? If you tell me I am creating an initiative that helps dogs, like I'm making a new plan, making some rules and some laws that specifically help dogs, gives them better lives, make sure their food is better, there's better facilities and stuff around to accommodate them. This is what this is for. This is what I'm making it for. And then you ask, like, okay, well, what does the opposition to this think about whenever we talk about this initiative? Who do they think we're referring to? It's like, well, dogs. Yeah. And it's like, haha, see, you hate dogs. And it's like, wait,
yeah.
What are you fucking retarded? Like, what do you mean? Oh,
when people use the term diversity the wrong way, diversity itself gets a bad reputation.
The wrong way.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I may or may not have been looking at this subject for the past nigh on 8 years, but okay, what is the correct way to, I mean, if diversity referenced diversity of thought, if it referenced diversity of tangible experience, then I would have nothing to complain about. But that's not what we're ever talking about in the first pass when it comes to diversity, is it?
Man, if she surprises us and is pushing to make the case that diversity should include white people and also people of the majority, and it doesn't, then I like that would be baffling to me. Well, I can almost guarantee that that's not what she's doing. But
I have lulled myself, not LOLD, but LULLD, into thinking that some arguments I've seen before were sort of like stealth attempts at course correction, where you have to sort of ease people who are totally on one side into thinking that maybe we need to start shifting our focus while still being very accommodating to the main line, right? So it's like, it's a little bit of a Trojan horse. It's like, yes, diversity has to do this, this, and this, but we have to start thinking more about looking at people's experiences as well as the historical yada, yada, yada. So you kind of ease in some more reasonable, meritorious thinking along sprinkling with the usual sound bites. Maybe this is one of those. I don't know. Hope springs eternal, but she's got 5 minutes to tell us otherwise.
The misuse also helps to explain why cisgender hetero white men can feel left out of diversity as well as the diversity conversation.
Can feel left out? Can feel left out. Check this out. Check this out. Check this out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This room is a diverse room. We use it for diversity purposes. No white people are allowed in this room. And a white person walks up and sees that sign. It's like, I'm not allowed in that room. And they're like, well, I see how you feel left out.
Right.
I see how your feelings are telling you that you're left out. But those are just feelings. Rest assured, this is for everyone, except you, of course.
Right. Yeah, that's just an aspect of your white fragility. And it's not your fault that you possess that. It's something that's been imparted on you by people from the past generations. You just have to learn what the new situation is, and I'm going to teach it to you now.
Yeah, so go get away from this door. You're not allowed in here, but don't worry, you're included also.
Now, if you do come in here, just remember that you're an ally.
Yes. So
I mean, I don't mean for that to come across as like second class citizen, but just you're an ally. You're just not. Remember, you have to be subservient to this demographic because obviously, in comparison to them, you're terrible. It's a degree of terrible. It's just terrible enough that we have to give you a different classification. But anyway, I could go on.
At the extreme, people can even get hostile and feel resentful toward diversity initiatives when they feel like this. Diversity doesn't have anything to do with me.
Yeah, because it basically categorizes you on the element that you have no control over and says nothing about your character or ability, your race, your gender, your orientation. I can't imagine why someone might get hostile over being discounted or abused on the basis of those surface level elements. I wonder if there's any history in this country where people have been treated that way and we had people dying, people murdered, entire protests, entire cultural shifts and laws made to try to dissuade that behavior in our society. Golly gee whiz, why should anybody feel that way under a diversity paradigm? I can't fucking imagine.
Well, here's the thing. Like, a lot of people think like, okay, these type of people should have somebody on the opposite side to argue their points. No, what this lady needs, what she needs right now in this video is to have another person who also pushes diversity and incentives, who will come out and literally say, no, you got it wrong. We do want to exclude white people. They're not included, because that's the bulk of the DEI movement. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what majority of them think. Like, they would stop her and correct her. Like, no, you got it wrong. Like, we do exclude them on purpose. It's our turn now.
Well, that's what they'd say if the cameras weren't rolling.
Nah, I know a lot of them who would say that shit with the cameras rolling.
No. I know that I've covered plenty, but in this kind of formal context, not like a panel discussion or something, it would be far more massaged.
I would love to see her response to that, though. Like,
that's true.
Point. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would love to see her combat with the idea that no, these people don't feel left out, and they're not wrong about feeling that way because we are purposely leaving them out because that's what we do this for.
Yeah, it's not a feeling; it's a fact. It's part of the process.
Diversity initiatives when they feel like this. Diversity doesn't have anything to do with me, so why should I even care? Mm-hmm. I've been in places where this happens. Oh, yeah. What about you?
Well, I mean, I have to say, and this is something I don't know, I say it often, I've been very fortunate that in the company that I work for, that we haven't had this happen. Since I've worked for the company I've been in since 2007. That's how long I've been working for my job. If your only concern is the visual diversity of the workforce, then the company I work for has been such from day one. It was never even an issue because it was never part of the people were there because they were good at their jobs. None of that mattered. So it's never even been an issue for me. And my company's thankfully never had to or even thought of taking on any initiative like this. In my social life, I have seen drastic changes over the years in people's mindsets and how they assess one another and the value of someone's opinion over someone else's based on their aesthetics. So in that sense, I've experienced that. But workplace-wise, I've been fortunate. I haven't had to see it. On the outside, of course, I've seen countless examples of this stuff. So in that way, I guess I've been spared the worst of it in the workplace specifically. But anyway.
Have you ever witnessed anti-diversity?
Do you mean anti-DEI? Well, yes, I think I could be rightly categorized as being in that camp. But what do you mean by anti-diversity? Because the way diversity works, you might as well be saying racist.
Well, have you ever?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Functionally, what diversity is right now is anti-diversity, and we saw that like at the initial stages of things getting bad, when they were like, look at this picture. You see this picture of all these people in this movie? They're all white. That's bad. Diversity is our power. That's what we need. Now check out this movie. This movie has all Negroes. That's good, because diversity is our power and it is our strength. And I'm like, hold up. Wait a second.
Yeah. It depends on how you define diversity, and it almost always starts with the aesthetic. Not the color of someone's skin and not the content of their character. And it is, and it is such a repudiation of what I thought was supposed to be happening in our society since I was a little kid. I remember sitting in my first grade class when the teacher wheeled in the big TV on the stand with the VCR attached, and we watched old news. It was ahead of Martin Luther King Day. We had to learn about Martin Luther King, and I saw this old black and white newsreel footage of the riots and the marches and the "I Have a Dream" speech. And of course, when you're like a 6-year-old and you're looking at this looks like ancient history, right? My perspective on time and everything else was like, this is like, distant past. And I'm looking at this, I'm thinking how terrible people treated each other. I mean, and this is back in like the 80s when they didn't really soften the news footage for schools. And so you kind of saw some stuff on some of those newsreels that they probably would try to sanitize these days. And it was horrifying to me as a kid. But then I was basically told by my teachers and otherwise, it's like, yeah, so all these people went through all this stuff and there was all these fights and riots and people being mean to each other. And then these laws were passed. And now we're working towards being a better society than we were. And I'm sitting in a classroom in first grade with Asian kids and black kids and Native American. I mean, if you want to talk about like the picture of what the modern hopeful society is in America post civil rights movement, I got to say, I felt like, and again, this is as a 6-year-old kid, I'm sitting there going like, I'm in a better world now than the bad old days. People used to be mean to each other over these stupid things, and now they're not. That's the environment I grew up in. And to see such an absolute reversal in my now adult years from those principles, from that hopeful situation, disgusts me at a level that I can't quite describe, because it was ingrained in me at such a young age as to not only how bad people, quote unquote, used to be, and the situation I found myself in growing up within. And to see it all just sort of like thrown away, tossed aside, corrupted into this nonsense, this self-empowering, divisive, profit-mongering nonsense. This is what's driven me, for better or ill, for the last 8 years or so, for most of the stuff that I've done on my channel. And here we are, and we're still here. And this lady is trying some kind of new soft sell angle on it, sort of, but it's really not getting us anywhere. Anyway, that was my rant.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize. Anyway, what was she saying?
Have you ever expressed it because you feel like diversity excludes you?
No. It excludes people on the basis of things that are not determinative of their character. Doesn't matter whether it affects me directly. It's affecting many, many people, and it's wrong. I don't have to have something bad affect me directly to look at it and say, that's bad and shouldn't be happening. Like murder. Like, I haven't been murdered, but I think murder is pretty bad, don't you think?
Well,
maybe that's just my empathy talking.
I don't know if, like, sometimes I wonder, like, is this level of ignorance that she is displaying willful, or is it malicious? Like, is it something like that she is purposely and intentionally ignoring the fact that a majority of the people who push these ideas are absolutely and 100% and unapologetically excluding white people, or if she's literally just oblivious, like one of those, like kids when they're starting to understand the world and everything looks magical and beautiful. And they're just like, oh my God, everything is great and everything is wonderful. And you're just like, that's cute. You're a dumb kid. You don't know anything.
Yeah. It's trying to suss out the difference between a snake oil salesman and a true believer.
Right.
But the problem is that you arrive at the same result regardless. Their motivation, that what they believe to be true, is practically irrelevant to the results of what it is that they're pitching. I mean, you could impugn their. Oh, is that an Aaliyah? Hi, Aaliyah. What's Aaliyah?
Hi.
Hi.
What you doing, big girl?
What are you doing? You go upstairs?
You want to go downstairs?
You go downstairs?
Okay. Bye-bye.
Aw, bye, Leah. Oh man, I tell you what, take me out of my angry, frustrated ramblings for a second and just bring absolute sunshine to my day. I don't even know what I was angry about just a second ago. Forget it. Squeetus.
You want to be even more excited?
Oh, do tell.
She finally went on the potty for the first time today.
All by herself?
Not all by herself. I helped her.
Like
right. But she did go because we've been trying to get her to go for a while, and she went for the first time today. I'm like, oh, that's my girl. Oh
man, excellent. Well, congratulations to Aaliyah. And yeah, no, I completely lost my train of thought. I'm happy to. All things considered, I'll take it. All right, let's keep.
Feel like diversity excludes you?
Mm-hmm.
The thing about diversity is that there are so many aspects and dimensions. Some are visible, most are invisible.
Nonsense. The first pass is entirely visible.
Well, okay. All right. Like I said, in the act of giving, of, being in good faith or whatever, if we erased everything we know about what it really is and what we really see, she's on track right now. Like if you were ignorant to this whole thing and you didn't know about all the stuff that was going on, but you knew what diversity was, you'd be like, yeah, she's right.
Sure. On the surface level, and then we only care about the surface level, I guess she's not wrong if you don't actually look at what they say and the results thereof. Frosted Glass, thank you so much. This lady in a bathroom sound guy was a DEI hire. I get what you're saying. I don't fault anybody for doing a ramshackle production job. I mean, present company included. If she's doing this in her living room in front of a white sky, whatever, that's fine. I don't. I have more than enough leverage and can give more than enough space to somebody who's producing something on the fly. We're all in one way, shape, or form. Everybody on YouTube is a content creator, and I appreciate even the worst production value. If somebody's doing something earnestly, I can respect it because what am I? I'm just a guy on a microphone.
I thought you was about to say everyone on YouTube is a DEI hire.
No. Because most people on YouTube are self-employed. They put themselves in there of their own volition. Now there are exceptions, of course, mostly from G4 and IGN and so on, but that's a whole other thing. I get you're just kidding, because we're all just making this up as we go along, really, as far as production value. But man, the tools available today as compared to just like 15 years ago for quality of broadcast and recording and everything else, it's night and day.
Well, consider an AI can literally make an entire YouTube video for you now. So,
oh man, yeah, that's trying to find the wheat amongst the chaff these days can be kind of a struggle. That's why I'm doing my best to highlight those YouTubers, especially in true crime and everything, who actually do the work, so to speak, and actually give a rip about their production. Anyway, that's another thing. Moving.
Mentions. Some are visible, most are invisible. But because of the emphasis on race, ethnicity, and gender, all of which are visible dimensions and underrepresented dimensions of diversity.
Okay. So you already qualified it as important.
Who placed those emphases, though?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So she's trying to say, it's like, oh, it's wrong to think of diversity as just on the surface thing, even though that's something that is underrepresented.
Dude, it's literally
even
like
help herself.
watching. It is literally like watching somebody stand next to a house with a can of gas and some matches, and it's just like, this house is on fire. Now let's try to figure out how this could have happened.
Right.
It's just like, bitch.
Well, the thing is, she can't not mention these things. Otherwise, she's not adhering to the doctrine. If she says that diversity should be a consideration of someone's merit, then she's not talking DEI anymore. She's talking about meritocracy, and meritocracy has become this kind of weird, bad word.
Well, it's a part of white supremacy,
Inherently so.
Dimensions of diversity. We sometimes forget that diversity is much more expansive than that. And so we go down a path of, we need more diversity candidates in the pool. We need to add some diversity hires to the team.
And again, if you exclude race and gender from those considerations, as you are supposed to under law, then you actually get closer to having a candidate pool made up of talent and not melanin.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Basic math isn't on their side if they do that, which is the same reason that there are all these women-based initiatives and companies. And even with the women-based initiatives, the numbers are still skewed in a way that does not favor them. It's because basic math, like I said, will dictate that if you allow people to freely do things, the numbers are never going to be even. And even so, because we hear this all the time, the diversity in a company should reflect the way, like America's makeup. The diversity in media should reflect. And I'm like, well, even if that was the case, let's just say that was your goal. That would mean that Black people are extremely overrepresented because we make up 16%? I think it was 13. I think it's like 13
to 15%.
Still 30. Okay, yeah, 13
like
to 15%. Yeah. I'm like, dude, media has blown that out of the water.
Yeah. If every company actually had a workforce that was exactly proportional to the demographics of the United States, any self-respecting DEI consultant would come in and tell them they have a problem. Because they'd say, well, no, I mean, look at your workforce. You have 60% white people and this and this and this, and only 13% Black people. Obviously, there's some unconscious bias taking place here. We need to reform your hiring practices and your recruitment processes to achieve a more equitable outcome. I could do this all day.
Also,
and yeah,
how many races and demographics are in America as a whole? Like, if we're talking about the total makeup or whatever, like they're total complete, because when you hear people talk about this, we need to make sure that it's 50-50. I'm like, 50-50? So there's only Black and white people in America?
For most DEI consultants and organizations, that is it. That really is it. That is the mark of whether or not your organization is diverse, is the proportion of Black to white people. Everybody else, secondary, especially Asian people. Don't want to talk about Asian people too much. Asian people are too white adjacent now or something. But it's okay. We're only almost halfway through this sucker, and man, every time she opens her mouth, it's just okay. Let's keep going.
And then diversity becomes this automatic race, ethnicity, and gender thing.
It becomes.
And it's the other guys that are doing it, not us who created it and made it that way explicitly and on purpose. It is the people who have eyes that have perceived that we have done it. They are the problem.
Boy, the gaslight. Can you see the gaslight?
I can smell it.
To put it another way, diversity has been prioritized to focus on those who come with visible dimensions of diversity that are missing or underrepresented in the workplace.
And whose fault is that?
It's yours, scribe.
I mean, if she's arguing against that thinking, if she's, again, I always hold out hope when I hear somebody starting to tell me that, up is not up and down is not down. If this is where, maybe, fingers crossed, knock Formica, maybe she's trying to stealth change the script. Okay. I'm not I might be like some kind of like battered wife here, but I'll give it another shot. Okay, keep going.
And then we reduce these individuals to a label by calling them diversity candidates and diversity hires.
You're correct. If you have a process that values race and gender and orientation above merit, and then somebody that falls within one or more of those categories gets a job over someone that does not possess those elements, then the suspicion exists that this person was selected not because they have the skills and ability, but because they look the part. It's the same problem with affirmative action. It's the same problem when you reduce down merit to aesthetic. So you're correct. That is the inherent problem of affirmative action and DEI. So if that's the case, what is your offered solution that doesn't involve that thinking? Because you're not doing a good job so far. You're actually contradicting yourself, but go ahead.
I really need for you to get this. There is no such thing as a diverse person.
There isn't. Then why are you pushing DEI? There's no such thing as a diverse person.
Like I said, like the more she talks, the more malicious this is starting to seem.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the fact that it's just like, where the fuck have you been, lady? Like, what have you been paying attention to? Like, there's no way that you could not know that this thing has been perpetuated by the people who are pushing it. Like, there's no way that you could think that, oh no, the whole time we were doing diversity of thought and all these other internal things, and then the opposition made it about this other thing.
Right.
Like, you can't think that. There's no way. It's not possible. So like, what the fuck is your angle right now?
Yeah. So far, this is gaslight the video.
City hires. I really need for you to get this. There is no such thing as a diverse person.
So what are we heading towards then?
A person isn't diverse. Teams are diverse.
Okay, define diverse. What do you mean by diverse? If there's no such thing as a diverse person, and there's no such thing as a diversity candidate or a diversity hire, define diverse. What elements make someone diverse in this context? You have to define your terms.
Workplaces are diverse.
Well, if okay, all right. If a workplace has nothing but visibly white people in it, would you call that workplace diverse? I guess that'd be my first question to her. If you had a snapshot of an entire company's population and all you saw, visibly speaking, were Caucasian individuals, would you allow for that photograph to say it represents a diverse workplace?
Also, would you take a look at a picture of a company owned exclusively by Black women who only hire Black women and be like, see, this is diversity in action? Or would you also have a problem with that? Would you take a look at that picture and be like, no, this is not a good example of diversity?
Yeah, it's either one, the other, or both.
Companies are diverse.
Tell me a situation where they're not. Because otherwise you don't have a reason to have a DEI program in the first place. Describe to me a non-diverse company, a non-diverse workplace, a non-diverse team. And because otherwise there's no problem for which you are there to solve.
Well, even if she did, let's just say, we could get her to point out, we can mirror her question in the beginning back to her. If I ask you to tell me about a business that is not diverse, what would you say? What would your answer be? And her answer would be a business that has exclusively or mostly white people. She wouldn't say a business that has exclusively or primarily one demographic of anybody. So like all Asians or all Blacks or anything like that. She would exclusively say that the only example that exists of a non-diverse company would be exclusively white people or exclusively males. That's it. That's the only example that exists.
Yeah, we come back around to where we started. We need definitions. What do you mean by diverse? What constitutes a diverse workforce? And if you ever, in the course of this, mention race or gender or ethnicity or orientation, you're running straight up against the law, straight up against Title VII.
And her own argument.
But anyway, okay.
I am not diverse, and neither are you.
Well, okay. So then why are we even using the term when talking about employment?
She's playing common sense semantics, where it's just like no fucking shit if we go by definitions, but clearly that's not what's happening. So
right. So the word diversity needs to be removed from DEI then. If no one is diverse, then a DEI process in hiring is actually a misnomer in and of itself, right? So you're arguing to have the word diversity removed from the entire idea. Is that
Calling people diversity candidates and hires
Uh-huh.
is the equivalent of othering them.
This is in defense of Kamala Harris, isn't it? This feels way, I mean, I honestly don't know when this was published, but this feels way too on point for the current conversation about the accusation that Kamala Harris was a DEI hire or DEI candidate. Okay. Yes, if you call someone a DEI hire, you are othering them. And why would someone be doing that? Because the process in and of itself cares only about aesthetics and not merit. That's why affirmative action was always so questionable.
This feels like so we had a shift when it comes to racism and what the definition of racism is. Once a lot of people started recognizing that a lot of behaviors of anti-racist are eerily similar to actual racist, they had to move the goalpost. And they're like, well, no, because we got a new definition now, and you have to add power to it now. It's not the same anymore. So now we can do the things that they do, but it's different. This seems like a shift for diversity in that same way, where they're saying like, we need to find a new way to define this and change it so we can still do the same things that our opposition are doing that we say is bad, but it's justified in this case.
Right.
That's what it feels like she's going for here.
Yeah. Racism isn't about elevating or denigrating someone on the basis of their skin color. It's about power and privilege.
Which ironically has nothing to do with race anymore.
No. But irony, where's that?
And quite frankly, it's offensive.
Oh, sorry. What's offensive? Sorry, let me back up a little bit. Sorry.
Are you? Calling people diversity candidates and hires is the equivalent of othering them. And quite frankly, it's offensive.
Then maybe we should just get rid of the whole DEI diversity process in the first place, and people will know, or at least hopefully heavily suspect, that someone got a position on the basis of their qualifications and not because they looked the part. What do you think about that idea? I'd love to ask her that.
It reinforces all of the negative connotations that have unfortunately come to be associated with diversity.
Yeah, whose fault is that?
Such as outside the norm, not mainstream, tokenism, unqualified, and the list goes on and on.
And whose fault is that?
Okay, but like, here's the thing though. We need this initiative to hire people who look like you, because people who don't look like you or who look like you are not represented in this company. Will you willfully sign up or get on board with this program that will explicitly hire you for that reason? Yes, I will. Do you understand that this is the reason that we're hiring you? Yes, I do. Okay, you're hired under these bases that we have outlined here. And they're just like, I think it's offensive that people thought I got hired under these premises. Like, what the fuck? Like, that was the whole point. That was the entire reason we're having this conversation.
Well, I mean, but in a similar vein, there is something valid to be complaining about that. Like Clarence Thomas talked about this. He talked about how he benefited from affirmative action in his schooling and everything else.
Right.
But he regrets that it was ever a part of his life, because obviously that puts a big question mark over his head, legitimately, and anybody looking at him in wondering, is he actually here because he earned it, or because the system took pity on him because of what he looks like? There is a inherent victimization of somebody who benefits from a process like this and either doesn't know it or assumes the best of the people who are hiring them. And then they're put in a position of like, well, did I actually earn this position? Was I actually hired because I'm the best candidate for the job? Or was I taken pity on?
Well, the problem though is that it's inevitable because most companies, especially if we're talking about big major companies, you'll be hard pressed to find any place that literally has nobody of color or considered a minority in the company at all. And they
Sure.
still add these initiatives on regardless of that fact because
Mhm.
the numbers that they're displaying are just unsatisfactory for whatever reason.
Well, not only that, but because having a declared DEI process in your company is practically a requirement now to get on board with the big investment companies. This all comes down from the ESG ethos and getting in line. If you don't have a DEI, a declared DEI process in your company, then you are seen as undesirable compared to other companies, especially investment concerns like Goldman Sachs and BlackRock and the others. If you're not actively declaring that you are a DEI friendly, diverse, whatever company, then the opportunities for you to receive investment capital diminish significantly. So it's basically, no pun intended, blackmail in order to make you heel to with this ESG philosophy. And even if you'd only have the most token, again, no pun intended, but I'll take it, token DEI program, where you just check that box, you're still falling into the category of giving in and putting aesthetic over merit and telling everybody, oh, you'll heal too. And it's all fake. And all it does is introduce more suspicion into people, and it sets things up for we've seen over and over time. If you put aesthetics ahead of merit, you get a lesser quality output because you're not collecting people who know what they're doing. You're collecting people who look the part, so people don't call you racist.
Well,
Thank you,
also,
Hoko Sport. Real quick, thank you, Hoko Sports again. Appreciate it. Then the plane crash, we will know qualification. Well, I mean, I did a whole stream on the International Air Transport Association and how they were talking about how they were fast tracking people who wanted to become pilots as long as they were women. They wanted 25% pilots by 2025 who were women. And I'm like, so you're just going to like speed run people into pilot seats on the basis of their gender? Boy, that sounds safe. This is the kind of speed kills thinking and aesthetic over merit thinking that is and has been causing problems.
Well, also too, like one of the things that gets overlooked in these situations is they always pretend like the only people who have problems with these diversity initiatives are just like white people or people who happen to be privileged or whatever. But if you pay attention, a lot of the times, a lot of the complaints come from employees and people who are already there, that are already a part of that demographic, who literally just went, filled out an application and got the job because they were fit for the job. Seeing these people come in who look like them, that get these positions, sometimes of higher positions, and they're less qualified, and they're just like, well, what the fuck? Like people ignore those people. Just like whenever there's like a comment, something going on about, talking about a thing that involves women, and they're like, not a single woman is in the comments that agrees with this or whatever. And it's just like, it's tons of them, but they're just like, but they don't exist though. Like, we don't give a fuck about their opinions. We're talking about the people we care about.
Yeah, it's bigotry. It's you discount someone on the basis of their thoughts or their ideas or their opinions. And especially when you're talking about, elevating people on the basis of what they look like first and foremost, even if that creates an inevitable suspicion about why someone is there in the first place. Do they deserve to be there based on what they can do versus what they look like? It's poison. The entire thing is poison. They don't want to admit that it's poison. And this lady is jumping through hoops trying to convince us that the strychnine is sugar water.
In this quest for diverse teams, the term diversity has grown so degraded and is used as shorthand to further marginalize people already marginalized.
Man, look, if by the end of this, she admits that it is due to the way that it's been presented and the way that people who have been pushing it has handled it, then I will applaud her and be like, okay, good on you for recognizing and noticing that. And yes, it should be better because like totally fine. But I'm telling you, like this whole time, she has been alluding to the fact that this is the way it's always been, and somebody is muddying the water, and it's not them, it's someone else.
She's right that this entire DEI apparatus has been creating the very scenarios that we were supposed to be moving away from, or wanting to move away from in this society, in this country, over the last 50 years. She's correct in that way, at least from what she's saying right here. Yes, DEI creates suspicion about someone's qualifications versus their aesthetic. You're correct. People who have, historically speaking, been marginalized because of their appearance are now being further marginalized because of their appearance, because of the cure to people being marginalized because of their appearance by using their appearance to elevate them into positions of authority. You're correct. It's all bad. Now tell us, oh, please tell me true, that you're going to conclude this by saying that DEI needs to go.
People that we want to welcome to the team. We've projected onto the term itself a burden that it was never meant to carry.
Horse hockey. You got caught is what you got.
She's so full of shit, dude. Like, I am trying
I know,
to
me
give
too.
her a chance, dude. But
Me
like,
too.
come on. Now, like I said, she's being very cryptic about what the cause of this is. And like I
Yes.
said, it literally, the entire tone of this video can change immediately if she just admits where this is coming from.
Yeah. All right. We got 2 minutes. She's got 2-minute warning, 2.5 minute warning. Okay.
We can't just identify what dimensions are underrepresented or missing and call only that diversity.
Yeah.
You're correct.
Exactly
Okay.
right. 100%
All right. You're right.
correct.
You're right. It can't be demographic. You're right. And especially under the law. Okay. Keep going.
That's not how you welcome people to the team.
Exactly.
You're right. Okay. Yes. Yes. So let's see where she goes.
By giving them or anyone else that perception.
Right.
Yes, you're right. DEI is inherently toxic to team cohesion and the overall fortunes of the company writ large, whether it's, on a PR level or on an actual functioning level. You're correct. Okay. Now carry this forward. Please.
A diversity label. Trust me, people don't like that.
You're right. So now you're going to repudiate the entire DEI concept, right? Because it's unavoidable if you have a process called diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the goals of diversity, equity, and inclusion are to diversify the workforce. And diversity is defined by less white male straight people in the company, as has been said and shown endless times. And it's not, here's the thing, for those of you who might be new to the channel, I imagine maybe they're not. I don't look at the same individual or company over and over again when I look at these DEI things. It has been a rare day where there's been any overlap or duplication in the individuals or organizations that I've looked at when it comes to DEI stuff. It is across the board, the most esoteric things ever, panel discussions from everywhere. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to hear somebody say, well, we looked at a picture of the executive board and it's all white males. And you hear something like that all the time. It's always about that. So if you're actually saying, lady, that that's not the case, that we really should, then you have to get rid of DEI completely. And so where are you going with this?
The language we use matters.
Yes, it's
she's
true.
saying we, and I like I said, being generous. If she's saying we and she means us, as in the people who are perpetuating this, then I'm with you. I'm with you, lady.
Okay.
Come on.
Okay, come on.
How is everyone going to view diversity as positive when we're inadvertently conditioning them to view diversity as a people of color thing?
Inadvertently. Okay, you're making. Okay, now maybe she's making this kind of apologetics in order to ease the true believers into her side of thinking. Again, I try to look at these things like, if this is a persuasive essay, and you know that your audience is already on board with one thing, and you're trying to move the needle even slightly to the other side or to see a different perspective, sometimes you have to cater awkwardly to the side you're opposing in order to ease them in. It is a little bit Trojan horse, but all the same. Okay, if I give you the benefit of the doubt that's why you're using inadvertently to make people not feel like they're the villain, where are you concluding with this? This is where it comes. The rubber meets the road on this. She's got another minute and a half. What is your conclusion of this?
Or a woman thing, or a not me thing. The fix is simple.
I love simple fixes.
Here we go, Scribe. Moment of truth.
What's the fix?
The impact, however, is huge.
Well, okay, sure, but what is the simple fix?
It involves a cease and desist approach.
Okay, how so?
In other words, just stop.
Okay. I'm suddenly getting hopeful. Stop what?
The expressions diversity candidate and diversity hire should not be a part of the organization's vocabulary.
Okay, no.
So-
no, it's not about language policing. That's not.
Like I said before, it sounds like she's just trying to change. Like she's like, keep the behaviors and keep doing what you're doing. Stop using these words.
Yeah, it's
because
propaganda shift.
It's
just
revealing that we're doing what we're doing.
Exactly. It's just propaganda shift. It's like we have to stop using the words. We
Yeah.
have to change our vocabulary. It's about now we have to make DEI politically correct within and of itself as to not offend anybody or really give any indication of what we're really doing or meaning.
Yeah, so keep doing what you're doing. Just
Right.
use different terminology so people don't know what you're doing. That's what it sounds like.
Nor yours.
All right, I'm gonna back up a little bit there. I unlike her, I do want to make sure we have all the context we need.
The expressions diversity candidate and diversity hire should not be a part of the organization's vocabulary, nor yours.
Right. So again, it's just wordplay. It's not actual changes to the process.
It breeds a mindset that is at odds with diversity.
I've always loved how they talk about diversity as though it were some kind of spiritual, supernatural force or entity that has to be respected.
Well,
Right.
Here's the thing. I just brought up I was talking to my mom about politics of all people the other day. And I'm just like, think about the idea that these people are saying that they are trying to defend democracy, which, as everybody knows, on its base level is just majority rule if you look at it purely. But everything that they do is in the service and with the better interest of the minority. Everything, like at the basis of everything that they stand for is to uplift and empower the minority. But they constantly talk about fighting for democracy, which in itself is inherently majority rule.
Yeah.
Like, how does that even work?
And thankfully, we don't actually live in a democracy. We live in a constitutional republic, which is a whole other conversation, but they love leaning on to like, oh, we're a democracy. Like, no, we're not. But anyway.
And as soon as we start to reclaim and reframe diversity,
We
Reframe.
need to rebrand. It's not we're moving deck chairs on the Titanic, everybody. It's actually a different ship now. It really is. A
We
new
need to-
coat of paint.
Reclaim and reframe.
Reclaim and reframe. Okay. So I wonder if she'll give us the new suggestion. What should DEI be called now? Is it bridge? Please tell me it's bridge.
we can direct our efforts at striking a balance between
Oh.
valuing everyone and what they bring while also seeking to include underrepresented or missing dimensions of diversity.
We value everybody, but some more than others if you're not in the majority.
What are these missing dimensions? Because like she talked about and labeled the physical ones that we know to be the actual focus, but she's never actually listed off and talked about any of the invisible ones.
No. And yeah, so all we're talking about here is Potemkin Village. All we're talking about is trying to change the language so nobody thinks that what we're talking about is what we're talking about. We're not promoting affirmative action in the workplace. We're promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's what it is, guys. No. DEI, we have to talk about bridge. We have to talk about bridge. We have to talk about belonging, and I forget what the rest of it does now. Have you heard about bridge, by the way?
I have briefly heard about it.
It's they're really trying hard with this one, but anyway, that's a whole other. I've done a whole series on bridge if you guys are curious about bridge and the efforts therein. Okay, so our hopes are being dashed quite quickly. This is not actually a stealth reformation of DEI. It's just, hey, everybody, you need to start changing the labels. You need to start using different terms to mean the same thing so nobody catches us doing what we've been doing anyway.
That's what it
Watch
sounds like.
this video for Bob's reaction to exploding the diversity myth.
What video? This video? Bob's react. Who's Bob?
And consider the positive impacts of what can happen when diversity is accurately framed to include everyone.
Okay, so are we going to get like a little skit now or something? What?
I'll be honest, until now, hearing about diversity and seeing
Hey, can you imagine? I hope this is not how this guy actually talks. Could you imagine the more stereotypical, goofy sounding white dude? This is about as Wonder Bread as you really? Oh my God. Okay, that's my biggest belly laugh of the day so far. Okay, let's okay. Okay, center myself. Okay, let's start from the top. Let's give Bob another chance here. Okay, go ahead, Bob.
I'll be honest, until now, hearing about diversity and seeing mostly race and gender emphasized, I thought that, as a white man, I needed to be quiet and get out of the way.
Well, that's been part and parcel with the whole thing since the beginning. Who has the microphone?
That is explicitly what the movement tells you to do.
Yeah, who has the microphone? Right? Don't obstruct this process. If you obstruct this process, that's your white fragility talking, and you're actually racist, etc., and so forth. To get in the way of DEI is to be a racist and or sexist and or homophobe or whatever else. That is as that's a part and parcel with this. That is part of the process. It is a guilt trip. You have had an inherent advantage that you didn't know about because it's invisible. Your whiteness, your maleness, your straightness. And you didn't know that you're benefiting from privilege. But now you need to step back, hand the microphone to somebody else who has been marginalized and disadvantaged this entire time because of what they look like. This is pure gaslight. Pure. But okay, keep going, Bob.
Get out of the way. Now, with this clarification, I see how so many of us are getting diversity all wrong.
No.
What clarification?
No, there is no clarification. There's no. So I need her. What I need from her is I need her to state clearly who set this misconception. Right. Because that's the one thing there is a misconception, and that's what we're talking about. Who said it? Right. How did we get to this point is what I need to hear.
Yeah. If she tells me that nobody who's been promoting DEI has ever said that this was entirely about race, gender, so maybe
it's in the first video.
Yeah, maybe I have to go find part 1 of this. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to do like a mini series on this now. But anyway, I want to see more of Bob, though. I hope Bob's in every episode.
No,
it's good to think about it in a different way. And
what way? At what point did she define diversity for the sake of this video? Give any definitions at all?
In a good way that includes everybody.
I am floored right now. I am fucking floored right now, dude.
That was something else. Okay, I hope Bob's in every video.
Also, Bob didn't say shit.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't say anything. He didn't clarify anything. And really, do I need you to put on a white man for me to understand what's going on here? Do you think that somehow Bob saying something is going to convince me, whereas you can't because obviously I'm just total Ray or something?
Just in case you saltines aren't really getting it, let me get somebody who speaks your language.
Hey, everybody, my name's Bob, and I talk like a radio show host from a DJ channel. How's it going? And up next, we got Bob Seeger. Like, good Lord. Anyway.
Diversity, the beautiful and varied mix of all of us.
Not all of us. It's not about all. Take away the filter of race and gender as the law requires. Good gravy.
Now it's time for you to do the work.
Oh, the work. Oh, what is I love the work. Tell me about the work. Oh, wait, no. Wait. Do the work, all of me. Mind and heart going in different directions. I don't know what to take from this image, but Anyway, there you go, guys. That is the latest and greatest from the DEI industrial complex. What did we learn, Satsu?
We learned that this lady has absolutely no idea what is the cause of this problem. She just says that we need to fix it.
Well, I mean, the only mystery here is she a true believer or is she a snake oil salesman? Does she know that what she's saying is absolute nonsense, or does she actually believe it? It's a curiosity that really has no answer. And for her credibility going forward, if I ever see her again, or anything else. But otherwise, it's like, okay, take whatever she put into this thing and think this is something that somebody scripted and wrote together, thinking that this is going to solve a problem or answer a question or clarify something. And you will not find me saying that I am unbiased when it comes to this subject. But I like to think that by pausing with every statement and thinking about what's being said, I at least apply a critical eye to what is being said and try to entertain the possibility that this could go a different direction or I could be wrong about something. Both of us did that over the course of this. We're like, okay, well, maybe she's going this way. I didn't completely say, okay, she's totally off the ranch and there's no redeeming this. And then this is where we are. Like,
all right. So here's my thoughts. Mm-hmm. Stepping outside of our bubble, looking at this for face value, I feel like she made an extremely good point that if pointed in the right direction, could have a good impact. I think her video had a good message. I think she made a really good point, and I think her observations about it were what we would consider outside of our bubble a common sense thing. It's like, yes, of course, this is how it should have been from the very beginning. Yeah. But it's like almost like I don't know if like preaching to the choir is the best analogy I can say to that, but like, okay, here's a good example. When I was in high school and you got in trouble in school or whatever, some of the teachers' approaches to dealing with kids misbehaving is if one person misbehaved in the class, everybody got punished, right?
Right. So the lesson taught to everybody, so everybody gets the same. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. This feels like that because instead of just pointing out the fact that Timmy keeps talking in the class, she's telling everybody in the class that, like, hey, look, this is the problem that needs to be. We all need to do the work to fix this thing, but we all know that it's fucking Timmy. Like everybody in the class knows. Like, nobody's stupid.
Yeah, you're distributing the blame to try to get somebody off the hook.
Right.
Like one person screws up, but everybody has to face the punishment. Usually that makes the person who did the thing wrong the subject of ire from everybody else, that they have to correct themselves because this one person screwed up.
And then you find out later that Timmy's her son. And you're just like, okay.
Yeah. All right. No, yeah, this is one of those things where it's like you feel like someone is just about to make a realization of the inherent flaws to their entire ideology. Like they see that there's a problem, they see all this resistance, they find a point where they have to try to concede something to bring people on their side, but that concession doesn't signal something in their head that there's an inherent problem to it. It's just one more obstacle to overcome to try to convince you to keep to my side.
Oh yeah, and I think
just to that point.
I think I just came up with the perfect analogy.
Go ahead.
It's basically like those people who can point out every single problem in their life with perfect precision. Like if you ask them, what are all the issues going on with your life? And they can name off all the problems and the issues and the things that are going on that's a problem. But the one thing that they will never acknowledge or point out is the fact that all those problems are their fault.
Yes, right.
Where it's just like, okay, here's the things. I can list it off. These are all of my issues. And it's just like, now all you need to do, the fucking final step is just realize that it's your fault that all this shit is happening.
Yeah, this is all about passing the buck and not taking any accountability for your actions. This entire video was, oh yeah, there's a problem with DEI. It's the other people's perception that what we're doing is bad, which it isn't, guys. I swears it isn't. It's just telling us it's bad.
It's like listening to a chick who has dated like 500 dudes in the past year, and she's explaining to you why all 500 of those relationships failed. And you're just
Right.
like, there's a common denominator that we ain't talking about here.
Yeah. And this is why I was talking before when Trump was posed with that DEI thing on that stage the other day. That was such an amazing opportunity to further dismantle this nonsense, and he completely blew it. Of all the things that I heard of him recently, that one ticked me off the most because he was like, he says, "What is DEI?" And she says, "Well, it's diversity, equity, and inclusion." He's like, "Oh, really? Oh, yeah." And then just kind of moves on. Like, I was like, dude, you could have, with the national spotlight on you and in the face of someone who's obviously a true believer, without having, not someone who obviously isn't willing to look behind the curtain to see who's actually there versus what the wrapping and the packaging says. That would have been a perfect opportunity to knock another piece of foundation from underneath this nonsense. But anyway, I could go on, and we're already at 2.5 hours, which is about an hour over what I usually do for these shows, and my voice is already starting to recede. So, Satsu, before we wrap things up, what have you got going on? You got anything you want to plug or anything else that we should know about?
Not other than the usual stuff. Obviously, you guys saw the ad earlier. I sell spices at oishifc.com. If you want to check that out, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Oh, you mean this is my friend Satsu, aka Chef Tyrone, founder, owner, and CEO of Oishi Fried Chicken LLC, featuring a new line of signature spice mixes. Chef Tyrone's homemade blends are the perfect gateway to delicious fried chicken or any other protein you might prefer. These recipes were painstakingly tested in Tyrone's home kitchen to bring you all the fantastic flavors you and your family can enjoy. The current flavor lineup includes original, spicy, lemon garlic herb, barbecue rub, and taco seasoning. You can buy individual packs of your favorite flavors or save some money with a variety bundle, all through the online store. And Oishi Fried Chicken ships nationwide. Go to www.oishifc.com and order today. Is that what you're talking about?
Fucking hate you, man.
Hey, man, I put effort into that thing, and I don't charge you nothing for it, so you be grateful, god dang it. Anyway, so aside from your business, what else is happening?
Trying to get out of crippling debt. Otherwise,
buy his spices, everybody. Buy Satsu's spices. The spice is the power. The spice is the universe. Buy Satsu's spices.
No, I am. I'm working on a loyalty program on the website for people who, because we got quite a few regulars who buy spices on a regular basis. So I'm working on a loyalty program for you guys so you can get discounts and stuff. And I'm also looking into being able to ship internationally for everybody who's been wanting to order that is not in the U.S. Because I've had quite a few people ask about that too. So those are the main things that I'm working on right now.
Remember, everybody, he who controls the spice controls their kitchen. Buy Satsu spices.
Por favor.
And you also do some game streaming, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, although I just recently made an announcement to my audience that I may have to like kind of shift out of doing gaming content for a while, just because of the fact that my wife started her new job recently, and we're trying to figure out what's going on with that.
So what's Squishy up to now? If you can say.
Well, the job she's working at now is I think she's going to be like one of the managers at Applebee's or something like that. But she's working in upper management now. And she's getting profit share, monthly profit share, and she also gets profit share at the end of the year.
Wow.
And she's making like almost 20,000 more than she was making before.
Whoa, dude!
Yeah,
you're gonna be a kept man pretty quick here.
So it's like we're working on that, and she's figuring that stuff out. And she just started, and she doesn't have like a set schedule and all that type of stuff or whatever.
Boy, man, it'd be terrible if you started providing spice mixes to the Applebee's chain.
Yeah, we all know they don't season their food. Anyway,
not to disparage. Anyway,
so right now I'm just kind of in limbo. Like we're running, trying to get everything going and see how everything pans out. And that's been kind of the whole situation right now. But trying to potty train Aaliyah and get her speech up and get her talking a little bit more. And it's just been a lot. And I've been doing the streams and stuff. And just to be realistic, man, I don't make any money on YouTube. Like,
sure.
So
no,
everything I do on YouTube is just like, I swear, it like, I like to do it and it's fun, but
yeah,
when you're in debt and your family's struggling, like I just cannot in good faith like continue to try to do it. And they've restricted. I mean, and
I talk to the true crime guys all the time. You think it's a tough road trying to make a living on YouTube, man. Trying to. I mean, I thankfully always had, you know, knock wood, a full-time job. Otherwise, there's no way I could live off of YouTube. I'm extremely grateful to everybody who's donated, and it does help out quite a bit. But YouTube, unless you just knock it out of the park, get very lucky, and the algorithm gods love you, YouTube is a very difficult place to actually earn a living, especially if you have a family. And so, I get it. I get it.
Yeah. That's what I told people. Like, if we weren't in trouble, like I've been doing this for a long time, and I had no problem doing it because we were fine. But with the economy being how it is, and all this stuff just kind of compounding on each other, and the debt that we've accumulated over the time, it's just like I can't justify it. Like I would be a bad father and a bad husband if I continue to prioritize this stuff. So
I get it. Yeah, no, it's reality. Yeah, it sucks, but pragmatism rules the day.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Anyway, everybody, that's just saying that if you like cooking, you like spices, you know somebody who does, check out Oshi Fried Chicken and buy some spices from Satsu and help him out and little Aaliyah. And congratulations to Squishy on the new job and all the prospects thereof.
Yeah, I'll let you guys know how that goes. Speaking of Aaliyah, she keeps coming upstairs and poking her head up because she's trying to communicate with me that she wants me to come downstairs.
Oh, okay. Well, then we got.
But like I said, that's a part of her.
Yeah.
Her trying to get her to communicate more.
All right.
She's like, Daddy, what are you doing?
Well, then let's get Satsu off to Aaliyah. Anything you'd like to plug otherwise before we start wrapping up?
No, that is it, Scribe. Thank you for having me, buddy.
Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. You always make my shows better when you pop on and contribute. Getting a second voice on here sometimes gives me something else to think about, as I'm just like stuck in my bubble sometimes. Otherwise, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the GoFundMe spin to the top of the chat box, or if you happen to go to Satsu's site at Oshi Fried Chicken and buy some spices, thank you so much for your generosity there as well. Also, if you happen to want to join the Discord server, let me tell you about that. There's a Discord server I have where I Discord on the Discord server. There's a link in the chat now. Click on that, you find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word tells me that you're not a bot, actually a human, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is, Satsu, what's today's secret word?
Sweetest.
Sweetest. So all you have to do is say sweetest, or hello, sweetest, and I'll know that you actually watched the show. And if you don't know what sweetest is, that is some LOTN lore that you'll have to look up on your own. It's a secret, not much of that. Otherwise, Satsu, thank you so much for joining me for this little look at a DEI video. Everyone, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Oh, hold on, I'm getting phone called here. Somebody's trying to call me on Discord. Hold on a second.
On Discord?
Yeah, I'm getting a phone call. Like, wait, I'm still streaming. Okay, sorry. I had ringing in my ears, and it was like, no, stop. Everyone, hope you have a good rest of your Sunday and weekend. Hope the rest of the week ahead of you is a good one. Stay safe and cool. Otherwise, everyone, I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.